Something is coming up. No, some ads are coming up here. 1 second. Okay. It's saying screen sharing, but are you able to see?
Yeah. We are able to see the screen.
Yes, sister. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this time we are not going in for the whisper. I just put up 3 things here. Maybe we can just read that. One of you can read the one with Chariji in the background. I would invite one of you to read it, please, loudly, clearly for all of us. Sister Radha, do you want to read it? Okay, Sister Dolly, you can go ahead. Dolly sister, you can read.
So, Sahaj Marg is not about going to the master to solve the problems. Sahaj Marg is all about taking the problems in your hands and solving them yourself. It teaches us that. It prepares our inner self and strengthens us in such a way that we become masters of ourselves. Shri Parasarathi Rajagopalachari.
Yeah. So this is also basically a philosophy where master time and again says that this is not something that is going to solve all your problems, but it will definitely show you a way in which you can solve your own problems and thereby become the master of your own life. This is also something got to do with our philosophy. So, and therefore I put it in this, since we are discussing about Sahaj Marg philosophy. And this one, well, everybody is kind of thinking about the exams and reading books and all that. But how much are we actually into the practice? Practice is equally important, if not more than reading the books itself.
Yeah.
Where it says, mere reading of books without a close study of the heart's book is of no avail, Babuji.
Yeah, I think it was. Oh, yes, it is just yesterday.
Yeah, thought for the day this was.
Yes,
so the
I
minute I
remember.
saw that, I thought, well, this is something that we can use, right?
Yeah.
As exams and books and read this book and that book, naturally that pressure begins to build. But one thing we should always understand, once we get completely centered, whatever we read just goes into our head and we really don't have to feel very stressed about it. It will all happen and we will all be able to go with the flow. And this one thought seems to be saying just that. Simply reading of books without a close study of the heart's book is of no avail. And this also has been told by our masters time and again, right? It is your heart that ultimately matters. It is your willingness, your cooperation that will take you further in this journey rather than just, he says if all those who read books become intelligent or intellectual, then worms also should be that, because they too eat up the books. Right? In a lighter vein, this was told, but it makes sense.
Sister, can I just also mention that reading books somewhere aids our practice?
Definitely it aids our practice. That is
experience.
why it has been made a part of this training also, right?
Because the more we are going into this complete works of Ramchandra, like efficacy, it is making a difference in the way we practice the experience.
It will definitely aid, and reading literature is a part of our progress because it goes on building our interest to know more and more about the system we have chosen for ourselves. But what he is trying to say is, without a close study of the heart's book, it should go in tandem. Reading the literature as well as trying to understand it in the right sense, putting it into practice, not just reading it for the sake of reading or for the sake of tests and exams, but actually looking at the practical part of it and trying to putting it into practice. Trying to take it to our heart, digest it completely, and then implement it, right? So unless we read, we won't know. We have to read, but we have to stay connected to whatever we are reading and try to put it into practice. I think that is what it means. Anybody has any other take on that? If you raise your hand, you can just unmute and tell me. Yes, brother Shrikant. Shrikant, brother, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry, there was some problem. Reading also helps us appreciate what we are receiving from the master, to appreciate the efficacy of the system.
Yes. Reading only will go on deepening our interest in the practice also. And that is why reading literature is a part of our practice. Along with the core practices, this is definitely a part of our practice. And that's why so much of impetus has been given to this. But one thing we have to see is we read, we connect, we read with the heart, we try to understand with the heart and implement it heartfully. That's it. Okay, so that's why it says listen to your heart. Even when we read, every time you read, now we are reading it from the exam point of view, perhaps, but when you read it leisurely, it opens up something very different. Something new comes up for you when you read it again and again and again. So these books are not a one-time read. Every time you feel like reading, you can open it and read, and it tells us, I mean, you interpret it in a very different way, and as we evolve, we go on interpreting it as per our own evolution. That is the magic of reading Sajmar books. So having said that, we will move on with a few more things. So we've come to this part of this book, role of the Abhyasi. So what is an Abhyasi expected to do? See what Babuji says. One of you can read it here also. If you don't, I will have to read it myself. Okay, Anuradha sister.
Yes, sister.
Yeah.
Way to realization, role of the Abhyasi.
Yeah, you can read one quote, one more, somebody else can read. Yeah.
Yes, sister. For success in work, unfailing will is necessary. If there is no faith in the master, then the work cannot be done. Doubt is the enemy of spirituality. Doubt really shows lack of faith in the master. Revered Babuji Maharaj.
Yeah, Babuji Maharaj. Yes. So maybe for half a minute we can dwell upon the meaning of this. For success in work, unfailing will. That is why they say, no, even when you applied for SNP, they say the first thing is willingness. The rest of it will fall in place as you go along with the journey. Whatever you have to learn, everything will fall in place. But the first thing is our own will. Unfailing will is necessary, and if there is no faith in the master, then the work cannot be done. This all pertains to us only, as trainers or as candidates to become trainers, whatever, that faith in the master is absolutely essential, and our own will to do whatever master asks us to do. Doubt is the enemy of spirituality. Doubt really shows lack of faith in the master. There's another very nice quote. Sita Subramaniam. Sita sister?
Yes, sister. Sahaj Marg is a different school of thought. Read and enjoy, do and feel. When another Abhyasi said, Master, when we progress, we do not like to read. Master replied, as we progress, what is unnecessary goes away. Babuji.
So what does this mean? This is very profound. Maybe we can go in for one more reading. If Brother Ananta, do you want to read it once again?
Okay, thank you. Sajmar is a different school of thought. Read and enjoy. Do and feel. when another Abhyasi said, Master, when we progress, we do not like to read. Master replied, as we progress, what is unnecessary goes away.
So what does that mean? Master replied, as we progress, what is unnecessary goes away. Just now we were saying, no, reading is very important. Reading takes us deeper into the practice. But here it's something different. When somebody said, as we progress, we do not like to read, Master says, as we progress, what is unnecessary goes away. Anyone wants to talk on this? Can we have others also participating?
It's interesting.
Is
I
it
mean, he doesn't say, no
Oh,
need.
sorry, brother. I'll go back to that slide. Yeah. Yes, brother.
No, I'll just, as we progress, what is unnecessary goes away. He's not saying you do not have to read, right? He's just saying what is unnecessary. I'm just wondering, what the.
But the question is answering the question, right? Somebody is saying when we progress, we do not like to read. So yes, there's quite a few people who are volunteering. Piyush, brother?
Sister, I think what he means is as one progresses and experiences things firsthand, perhaps the need to read reduces or goes away, perhaps. Yeah, up to that extent.
To that extent. Okay, exactly. Yes. Venkata, brother?
Subhashini sister.
So, okay, Venkata, Subhashini sister. All right. Yes, sister.
When we doing the practice, unnecessary it will go away means our other habits, which is required it will stay, which is unnecessary daily life that it will goes away, and we do the practice.
Okay, one more, and then maybe we'll move forward. Girish, brother.
Reading is the external thing. When we are doing meditation, I mean, we are progressing, it is an internal thing. We are already experienced the thing. So we feel better to do the practice.
Okay. Reading initially is very, very important because we go through the steps of reading, we understand the philosophy, we understand why we are in the system. For all this, it becomes very, very essential. But as we progress, intuition starts developing in us. Revelations happen to us in meditation.
Sister, shall I tell one thing?
Yes, please.
Sri Lakshmi sister.
Yes.
Sister, I think even praying for idol worship also will go off. That one I feel.
Yeah.
Correct, no, sister?
Correct.
Praying,
everything that is unnecessary, but here in answering to that particular question, perhaps what Babuji is trying to tell is when we start initially, we need to read because we don't know so many things about our system, how meditation is to be done, what is the role of an abhyasi, how cleaning has to be done. All these things is initial, right?
Yes.
But in the path of evolution, when we go forward, so many things is revealed to us in our meditation. So many things comes as an intuition during our meditation. And at that time, we don't really feel that you have to read books to understand because something inside you gives you the experience and the understanding of what the system is all about. Okay, so let's move on. What do you think is the role of an abhyasi? Before we see what exactly the book says, this we know because we are all abhyasis. And what is our role? What should be our role?
Sadhana.
Sadhana, yes. First and foremost, it is that. What are the essential things that we do in our sadhana? How do we go ahead with the sadhana?
Meditation, cleaning.
Meditation, cleaning, prayer, the core practices. Then?
Constant remembrance.
Constant remembrance. Others, anyone wants to
Following
say?
the maxims, following the maxims.
Following the maxims, yes. Very
Obedience,
important,
sister.
following the maxims.
Obedience.
Volunteering.
Do volunteer service, that is, yes.
Maintaining discipline.
Maintain discipline, have obedience. So let's just see this. I don't know why it is not opening. Overcoming obstacles.
Be a role model.
Be a role model. Okay.
Regular practicing.
I had put it up in the form of a slide.
That has to be played, sister.
Huh?
In the presentation mode, it will start appearing. If you put it on that flower option, right?
You mean a slideshow?
Yes. That, yes.
This
Because
one?
it is in the first step. Yes. Yes.
Okay. But it says in
No.
second.
If you, in the bottom, you see the flower, that will start from the current slide. If you see the same icon in the bottom.
Anyway, I'll run off through this.
Okay. Before you moved one step.
No, it's not coming, brother. That's the thing. That's the
Okay.
whole thing. It's not coming. Anyway, so one by one, this will come. Let's do that. So practice and steadfastness. Like sister was telling, sadhana, practice is at the root of this. It is the core. We have to do our practice and be steadfast in doing the practice. And abhyasi must engage in regular and consistent spiritual practices. Okay, this we all know. Regularity is always insisted upon. Developing love and devotion. Just now we saw that quote, right? What Babuji says, without faith in the master, nothing is going to work. And that faith will come only when we have love and devotion. So cultivating love and devotion towards the master is the core aspect here. Recognizing the master as a conduit of the divine and striving to merge oneself in his essence. Okay, that is the thing. Next, the role of an abhyasi is always to have his thing centered on the goal. Goal consciousness and oneness is another thing that we need to have as abhyasis. Otherwise, we will tend to go astray because we don't know what we are doing and why we are doing it. And therefore, to be oriented towards the goal, have consciousness of the goal is another major thing that we have to have as an abhyasi. The abhyasi needs to have a clear understanding of the ultimate goal. And that is what we tell in our prayer. You are the ultimate goal of human life, we say, right? That is mergence or sayujyata, what we say. And we know that in Sahaj Marg, liberation is not at all our goal. Liberation is something that with sincere practice, most of us or all of us can achieve liberation, but our goal goes beyond much beyond that. So what is our goal? We should know our goal is mergence with the source or sayujyata. This awareness guides our thoughts, our actions, and our practices. So that is why in the very first even during the morning meditation, rise before dawn, and before we start our meditation, we think about the goal, right? So that should always be there, and that is what we call goal consciousness. So practice with love, have the goal in mind all the time. Non-attachment or vairagya. While living a householder's life, the abhyasi practices non-attachment, understanding that worldly possessions and relationships are a trust from the divine rather than personal belongings. Okay, this is what we call as vairagya in our system. We live in the house, we carry out all our responsibilities, but we do not have too much of attachment towards our possessions, especially our possessions. And that is what we could, very clearly it is told, it is not owning something, but being unduly attached to it is what we call as moha. That should not be there. Owning something is no issue at all in Sahaj Marg, and we all know that. Role of an abhyasi is to have true surrender. True surrender involves complete resignation to the master's will and a total disregard of the self. At one point of evolution, this should happen automatically, even without our knowledge, completely surrendering to the master. Though none of the masters insist on this, it should be something that comes from within us. And this is definitely something an Abhyasi should aim for. Relinquishing personal ego and recognizing the master as the doer of all actions. Of course, constant remembrance, achieved by maintaining a continuous awareness of the divine master throughout our daily activities. We know this, most of us know all these things. So going through it once again, practice it diligently, practice with love, practice with the goal in mind, practice with an attitude of surrender, continue with the practice with constant remembrance. See, this is another thing for role of an Abhyasi, overcoming obstacles. Abhyasi should be mindful of potential pitfalls such as carelessness, lack of genuine interest, self-importance, entanglement in negative impressions. By acknowledging and addressing these challenges, the Abhyasi can make steady progress on the spiritual path. So this is something like when we do our reflection, our introspection, we know where we are likely to slip. Carelessness in the practice, being very lethargic in our practice, lack of genuine interest, on and off, if we are doing our practice. Self-importance, because we believe in negation, negating the self. So this is one obstacle we need to overcome, and it is also very difficult. Sometimes the self-importance, nothing but propelled by our own ego. Entanglement in negative impressions, every impression for that matter. And by acknowledging and addressing these challenges, Abhyasi can make steady progress in the spiritual path. Just now we were talking about Vairagya or non-attachment. And we look at non-attachment in a very different way. In Sajmar, we don't believe, when we say non-attachment, it doesn't mean relinquishing your responsibilities as a grihastha and going away, right? So what is non-attachment in our system? Rima sister, you want to say? Anyone?
Sister, it's like doing our duty, taking as a divine duty, whatever. So a non-attachment will be there.
Okay, we do every duty thinking that it is our divine responsibility. All right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, anybody else?
Sister?
Yes.
Sister? It's like an example of leasing, taking a house on lease. It will not be ours in that way.
Okay, everything that is given to us is we are just the trustees, master say, right?
Yes,
do everything thinking that you are just a trustee, you're taking care of it for some time.
Yes,
sister, non-possession of things.
Non-possession. Non-possession of things? No, non-attachment is not non-possession of things. Here, you are
Position without attachment, sister.
Okay,
yes.
Position without attachment. Yes.
Yeah,
attachment.
You can possess your thing. You can possess a house. You can possess a car. Sometimes they are needs. Sometimes they are necessities. So nobody is putting a bar to that. Nobody is telling don't go, don't earn. In fact, master says you earn. If you can earn 10 millions or 10 crores, go ahead, earn it. But don't be attached to that. If something happens tomorrow, you should be able to take it in a proper way. So you don't get too much attached to your money. So according to our system, one second. 3 participants raise their hand, it said. So I'm just seeing who that is. Rima sister.
Yeah. Sister, on the non-attachment, I just want some little bit more clarity on it. Is
Yeah.
it only related to the duties or the material aspects, like, the worldly duties and the possessions, whatever we have? Just to have the non-attachment, like as a child, we love our parents, we love our brothers and sisters. So in Vairagya or in non-attachment, is it like we just do our duty because there's some kind of an emotional connect with
Yes,
our
definitely we are all,
near and dear
yeah,
ones?
after you talk, I'll tell sister. You finish your question. Yes.
That is the thing. I just wanted to understand on Vairagya, is it only related to more worldly or material life, or is it with our near and dear ones also?
Huh. Whenever we talk about non-attachment, generally we talk about material things all the time, right?
Yeah.
About possessing a house, about possessing a car or anything. But here, like you said, it is not just about the material things. Like you said, when it comes to our relationships, our parents, our children, we will be attached, yes, but detachedly attached. That's what, see, when you're taking care of your child also, master says, look at that as an independent soul. You may have brought that soul into the world, but the soul has got its own choices. The soul will want to do certain things in a certain way. But when this attachment becomes moha, what we say, prema is different, moha is different, right? You love your child, but don't be possessive of your relationships. Don't be possessive of your children. Allow them, let them grow wings, let them fly. It doesn't mean you should have no emotions. In fact, Lalaji also, right, when he lost his daughter, tears came up, and then somebody says, what, you are a yogi and you're crying when you lost your daughter, right? Do you remember that part?
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah.
as human beings, we will all have emotions when we deal with people around us. But if you become overly attached to that position, to become overly possessive of your relationship, be it your spouse or your child, we are only going to harm them, right? Because we are not allowing them to live their lives. Okay? It doesn't prevent us in any way from loving them. Love is the basis of Sahaj Marg. We know that.
Yeah.
Everything we do, we have to do with love. But
Correct.
love, the recent message that Daji gave, when you love, you let go.
Yes,
Right?
with the
So that
nature.
is the thing. You don't possess anything. You can have them, but you don't become too possessive of them. Okay? That is Vairagya. That is what we call as non-attachment. See, renunciation truly means non-attachment with worldly object and not non-possession of things. Here also, first they are talking about objects only. It truly means non-attachment with worldly objects and not the non-possession of things. You can own 10 bungalows, you can own 10 cars, no issues. But you don't become overly possessive of that. Renunciation is, in fact, a condition or an inner state of mind which brings to view the transitory and changing character of things and creates a feeling of non-attachment to such objects. Here again, it is referring to objects only. But yes, in case of relationships also, though we bring love into the picture, we don't bring too much of attachment into it. See, these are all the definitions that Babuji gives us. Vairagya or renunciation in the true sense is fixing our eyes every moment on a reality which is unchanging and eternal. See, attachment brings in too much of emotions sometimes, right? Today, your child might be there and listening to you, everything that you say. Tomorrow, when the child grows and doesn't listen to you, you become very obsessive about possessing that child. That should not be there when it comes to relationships, nor should it be there when it comes to possessing worldly objects. Okay, so in the true sense, fixing our eyes every moment on reality, which is unchanging and eternal.
There's a lot of background noise coming.
Yeah, somebody has to mute themselves. Some song I can hear.
Galaxy Tab S6 Lite. I think now it's muted.
Yeah. And being free from the feeling of attraction and repulsion. When we become very possessive or obsessive with whatever we possess, obsessive about our relationships, then what happens? We have all these dvandvas, like either we are attracted or we get repelled. Either there is excessive attachment or there is hatred. Now, all this comes in the way of reality. So, Vairagya here, what we mean is every moment our eyes is fixed on a reality which is unchanging and eternal. Think of your relationships with so many people around you. It keeps changing, right? Sometimes we are very nice. Sometimes we get angry. Sometimes there's a bit of hatred. All these things come because we are all work in progress, and all these things come. But that is when we have to remind ourselves that Vairagya is necessary for me. And what is this Vairagya? Just being fixed on something which is unchanging and eternal. We feel contented with what is available to us. The end of desire means stopping of the forming of samskaras. What remains now is only to undergo the effect of the previously formed samskaras. I don't know why this is not much in place. So here again it says, the real evil is only our undue attachment to the things which we are associated. Same things told in a different way. Okay, undue attachment to the things with which we are associated. This is the cause of suffering. Okay, tomorrow something happens to my beautifully built house, and if I have been very attached to it, I feel very sad, I go into depression, and this becomes a cause of suffering, right? That's what it means. Real evil is only our undue attachment to the things. This is something that only over a period of time we will be able to get over, because many of us, we are attached to certain things, worldly objects, we are attached to the people around us. But the practice, like Babuji says, no, as you progress, all that is unnecessary drops off. Vairagya will come on its own. Okay? You will still be doing your duties. You will be still with the people that you like the most. But there is no undue attachment. There is no struggle to, allow them to do what they want to do. Those things are not there. But if we are able to do everything in life thinking it to be our duty without feeling of attraction or repulsion, we are in a way free from worldly ties. And that is Vairagya. And have renounced the world in the true sense. Although we possess and make use of many things, everything we possess shall then seem to be a sacred trust. Now, what is given in red is what we will have to really focus on. Everything we possess shall then seem to be a sacred trust from the Supreme Master for the discharge of the duties entrusted to us. So everywhere, if we start thinking that I am just a trustee, okay, something has been given to me and I am discharging my duty as a trustee, then we will not have this suffering. Because if I think I am this, I am that, he is my child, this and that is where the problem arises. But if you think this is a soul that has come and I have to take care of this, that is my responsibility. Though we are attached, we become to some extent detached also. And that will bring about the full growth of that particular person also, right? So it is very necessary for us. What is written in red is what we have to really focus on. Are we okay with this?
Yes, sister.
Okay. So it says all that is born of attachment is misery. Pleasure and pain both contribute to misery. It's like a paradox, right? Pleasure also contributes to misery. Pain also contributes to misery. Anybody wants to comment on that? Pleasure and pain both contribute to misery. Yes, brother Shrikant.
Pleasure is related to fulfilling the sensory pleasures. Charij Maharaj used to say that senses are there to guide us. So if we use it, then fine. We can glide through this life, avoiding many pains. Because he said if there is pleasure, the pain will also be there.
Yeah.
It's
Two
like
sides of the
if there
same
is,
coin, like, right?
yeah, true.
Yeah. So when we think we want pleasure, we should be ready to accept the pain that comes with it also. Anybody wants to substantiate this with an example? Pleasure and pain? Any simple example also is okay. Anyone? How come Vidya sister is not raising her hand today? Vidya sister.
Sister, can I add? Like a mother delivering a baby, it's a pleasure, but it has a lot of pain.
Okay. Delivering a baby is a pleasure, but it also has pain attached to that. Okay, then. Any other examples? Who's raised the hand? Is it Premavati sister? Who's raised her hand? Anybody wants to substantiate this with whatever example comes to your mind? There's nothing right or nothing wrong. Everything is right in a way. I'm not able to see who has raised their hand. One of you can unmute and just tell me.
So one example which comes to me is like suppose if we enjoy eating too much of food, right? This is also a pleasure. I'm gaining pleasure by having delicious food and all, but that would ruin my health, constipation or anything further, a lot of effects it creates on me.
Exactly,
So
right? Because brother was talking about sense gratification, even I thought about that. Food. We have to be very careful of what goes into our mouth. If you are going to look at only pleasure and taste, it is going to definitely contribute to pain next, right? Like that, if you see so many examples you can come up with to understand pleasure and pain both contribute to misery. Vairagya can be attained only when one is wholly diverted towards the divine. So long we were talking only about what Vairagya is, what non-attachment is. But how can we attain this Vairagya? Only when one is wholly diverted towards the divine. Okay, because this is not something easy for us to happen on its own. Okay, I'll be detachedly attached. All these are simply words and we can play with so many words. But when it comes to actual practice, all of us go into the stage of being possessive when it comes to relationships and all that, right? So at such a time, how can we come to a stage of actual Vairagya is only when one is wholly diverted towards the divine. With divine help, we can come to this stage of renunciation. When it is so, one naturally becomes disinterested in his own self, including everything connected with it. So when we are focusing single-pointedly on the divine, slowly all these unnecessary things fall off. Okay. Thus, he loses not only his body consciousness, but subsequently soul consciousness. What remains is nothing but being in the dead form or a living dead. This is the famous thing of Babaji, right? He says, be a living dead, right? So everything you have surrendered. You are just an instrument in his hand, and you are wholly, you're completely diverted towards the divine. Then all these things one by one, they fall off automatically. We don't try to achieve Vairagya. It just happens. Like everything else in Sahaj, if you see, once we start the practice, things drop off, right? We have not made an effort to give up on certain things. This is our experience for all of us. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sister.
Yeah. We have seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sister.
Yes. Every one of us can vouch for this, right? We have not tried really hard to give up on certain things. And one fine day you're thinking, how did this happen? How did this even happen? But it has happened. So that comes automatically if we play the role of an abhyasi properly, with all that is given as tools to progress in this journey. If we do that, Vairagya will happen by itself. We don't have to think, I have to give up this, I have to give up that. It just happens. What remains then is nothing but being in a dead form or a living dead. Here, the ones in blue is what we are trying to focus on. So far we have spoken on how an abhyasi can progress in his journey by cultivating certain practices like meditation, cleaning, so many things, then constant remembrance, trying to become detached or Vairagya, as we say. Moving on to the next part of this chapter, meditation.
Sister, just if you allow me, just one point.
Yes, please.
In fact, in reality at dawn, Master says that Viveka, Vairagya, they are a result of our practice. Sadhana Chatushtaya. As we progress, these things happen.
Yes, exactly.
The Sadhana Chatushtaya.
Yes. So that is why the very first quote which I put was Babaji saying, as you progress in the journey, what is unnecessary drops off. That is completely related to what we are discussing today about Vairagya, right? And yes, we have experienced it. It is not that we have just read it in the book and we have memorized it or anything. Each one of us here have experienced in our own way how certain things have simply fallen off. Correct? So it just happens with the practice, and that is the most amazing part of Sajma. So in our Sanstha, we start with meditation or dhyana, as we call it, which is the 7th step in Patanjali, Ashtanga Yoga. We know this. Babaji says there is a great philosophy underlying the practice of meditating on the heart. Ours is a heart-based meditation. And he makes the statement where he says there's a great philosophy underlying the practice of meditating on the heart. Now, if somebody asks us, why is it we are meditating on our heart? What will we tell them? Why do we meditate on the heart? What is the philosophy? He says there's a great philosophy underlying the practice. Yes, Vidya sister?
Really, Master tells Heart is the center from where blood is circulated to every cell in the body.
Okay.
So if heart is filled with transmission or positivity, it reaches every cell. So every cell is divinized or transformed. So that's what we see. So heart is the center of everything.
Okay.
It's an important organ which
It's a
connects
very
the whole
important
body.
organ. And okay, fine. Who else has raised their hand?
Sister,
Please go ahead, Sister Jyoti, sister.
heart is the organ where we feel.
Okay.
And when we are going to feel or towards the divine, the feeling of divine is very important, and that feeling we can feel in heart only.
Okay. And therefore we meditate on the heart.
Heart, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Suguna, sister.
Heart is the seat of the soul.
Oh, it is Suguna Satya.
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
Satyanan. I'm using
sorry.
my wife's mobile.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Heart
no
is the
problem.
seat
Tell
of the
brother.
soul. Heart is the seat of the soul.
Okay, heart is the
Therefore, we
seat of the
meditate.
soul.
Yeah.
Okay.
Therefore, we meditate on the heart.
Okay. So let us see what that is. So yeah, you all told it. Chariji also says, knows many a time, and starting with Babuji, it is the pumping station. And as it carries the heart, the physical heart we are talking about is the pumping station. It carries blood to all our cells, right? So when we meditate on that, the blood is also getting cleansed. That's why in our cleaning also sometimes we say every cell, every nerve, every blood drop is getting cleansed. We say that, right, when we do our cleaning. So that is the philosophy he is talking about. Heart is the seat of the soul. Heart is where we really feel. It is the heart which cleanses us completely. It is the heart which connects our lower self and the higher self. So many things, everywhere, everything is to do with the heart. And therefore, he says there's a great philosophy underlying this practice of meditating on the heart. Then there is one more very important statement that comes up in this particular chapter on meditation, where he says, treat your thoughts and ideas as, when thoughts arise in meditation, he says, treat them as
Unwanted guest.
Unwanted guest.
uninvited guests.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He says, treat your thoughts and ideas as uninvited guests.
Yes.
If even then they trouble you, think they are
Masters and not yours.
Yeah. Think they are masters and not your thoughts. This process is very effective. Because this is something that we will all encounter when we become trainers. The first thing they'll say is getting too many thoughts, right? Even we encountered all these things. So maybe we can use this method where we try to treat them as uninvited guests. That can come as a question for you. And if they still trouble you, think that they are master's thought and not yours. This process can be very effective. Just picked up a few things that could come up, talking from the exam point of view. The Abhyasi has got nothing to do with the cleansing of the dash. It is exclusively the outlook of the master. What is the word there? In our system, we've got nothing to do with this. Whereas in every other system, they are harping on this.
Mind?
No, we are only cleaning the mind, right?
Is this Kundalini?
Kundalini, exactly. The Abhyasi has nothing to do with the cleansing of the Kundalini. We don't do any Kundalini cleansing in our thing, right? It's exclusively the outlook of the master. If the Abhyasi starts feeling lighter and lighter, that means he is progressing. Lightness refers to the loss of the weight of one's own thoughts. Now, after our sitting there, the preceptor asks, right, are you feeling light? What do we mean by that? Our thoughts, that weight of our thoughts has disappeared after taking the sitting. Then we say we have developed this kind of lightness. This is all just from the exam point of view, I have just put it up. Because meditation, we know, we are doing it and therefore we know. Babuji says this is the first thing that we begin to gain from the first day in the system of meditation. What is he referring to?
Transmission.
Huh?
Transmission.
Transmission. Okay. Anything else?
Lightness.
I didn't get you.
Lightness.
Lightness.
Sister,
Okay.
connection with the master. Connection with the master.
Master.
Peace and calmness. Awakening of soul.
Speed of liberation.
What we get from the very day is the melting away of our own solidity. The solidity due to our own thoughts and actions begin to melt away, because when we meditate on the heart, which is the pumping station, the blood is affected and the solidity begins to melt. From the very first day, this begins to happen. Okay, yes, transmission, all that is there, but this is also the philosophy that he was talking about, no? About meditating on the heart. And this is something that happens from the very first day. The solidity due to our own thoughts and actions begin to melt away. Because when we meditate on the heart, which is the pumping station, the blood is affected, and this affected in a positive way, we are using it. And the solidity begins to melt. From the very first day of meditation, this is what happens.
Sister, just a question out here.
Yeah.
Sister.
Yeah, Rima, yeah,
Expansion of
sister.
consciousness.
Yes, Rima, sister, go ahead.
Yeah. Sister, is it the same like what Daji has given in his heartfulness way, that in the first sitting itself, the foundation of that building kind of a thing is removed, and
Yeah.
automatically that building will collapse in some time, like after practice? Or
Yes.
So is it the same thing, sister?
Yeah, he has explained it in his own words. Okay, and this is what happens during the first 3 sittings for all of us also, right?
Yes.
First sitting, they do only the cleaning.
Correct.
Right. And why? Because slowly the solidity has to be removed. This is the same thing. Daji has told it in a different way, but it all means the same. Right from the first day, the minute you go for a session, the first introductory sitting for the meditation, this is what happens. The solidity of our own thoughts and actions begin to melt away.
Sister, expansion of consciousness.
Expansion of consciousness is something that will happen gradually. It will not happen immediately. But what we are trying to say here is, see, in the previous thing, what we saw.
Okay.
Sorry. What was the previous slide, right? This one. Babuji says this is the first thing that we begin to gain from the first day in this system of meditation. What is it that we gain? The melting away of our own solidity. Is that okay? And this is another famous statement which is often asked as a question. This part is entirely keeping your exam in view. The heart is the field for the action of the mind and is the instrument which helps us to develop the discriminating faculty. Okay, heart is the dash of the mind, they'll say. The heart is the field of the mind. What do we mean by that?
Is it the viveka, like the discriminatory power?
Yeah, but what do we mean by the heart is the field of the mind?
Where interaction happens.
The heart decides what is wrong, what is right.
Right, and the mind has to put it in action. That should be the right way. Okay, we should take the signal from the heart, and whatever the heart says, the mind has to do. Okay, so that is the field where whatever we have to do is generated based on the discriminating faculty, and the action is done by the mind. If it happens like this, it would be the best outcome. The heart decides, the mind executes.
So, sister, here the heart, by heart we mean again the physical heart, is it?
The heart, when we say, see, the physical heart is just an organ of flesh and blood, right? Below the physical heart is the spiritual heart. That is what we show in our esoteric symbol also. One heart and another heart inside, right? And we believe that the spiritual heart is just below our physical heart. When we say heart is the seat of all emotions and all that, we are talking about the spiritual heart as well as the physical heart. Pumping of the blood is done by the physical heart only. Correct?
Yes.
But where does this discriminatory factor and all that arises? It is something much more deeper. It is in the spiritual heart that this comes. And then that signal is given to the mind and the mind executes it. If it goes on like this, then whatever we do would be the right thing to do at that particular time.
Okay.
The subtle force works in this place for the descent of the divine energy. Okay. The divine energy descends into our heart. And then comes about what are the preliminaries for meditation. As Abhyasis, we all know this. What is the preliminaries that we have to observe before we sit for meditation? I mean, or when we sit for meditation, rather, before we start meditating. What is the first preliminary that we follow?
Posture.
We are doing the practice, right? So we know this.
We have to find a place, we have to fix a place,
suitable place.
time,
Okay.
time, raise before dawn.
Suitable posture, suitable pose,
Yes.
exactly. The posture
Fix
is
it.
very important.
And fix the goal.
Time.
Aruna sister, you raised your hand.
We have to relax.
Yeah. We have to find a place, we have to relax, and then we always say, no, sit comfortably, right? When we say, everybody says that whenever you go for a sitting or anything, say, sit comfortably and gently close your eyes. So a natural posture or asan paves our way to the ultimate. Because why is it that we don't insist on anybody sitting just like that? A natural posture is what we tell, so that we are able to focus on the heart and meditate instead of focusing on our legs when it starts paining or whatever. We know these basic things. But even when it comes to that posture, if we adopt this posture, it is very effective. That is sitting in a Sukhasana. Okay, that is the asana we are talking about, a natural posture. If we sit in Sukhasana with our legs folded like this, that would be very, very effective. And why so? The explanation he gives is the state of pralaya comes in when contraction begins to take place. We know this. Similar contraction in man leads to individual pralaya. That means that he begins to proceed from his state of grossness to the real state. The contraction always starts from below and proceeds gradually upwards because of its upward tendency. Therefore, in order to go upwards, he must start contracting from below. The form of contraction could be only to bring his legs and allied parts to one pose and keep them steady. So we do, today we are allowed to sit on a chair, but why is Sukhasana advised is then we bring our entire body to a state of contraction, right? When we fold our legs and we sit like this, in a way, we are bringing about this contraction. The form of contraction could be only to bring his legs and allied parts to one pose and to keep them steady. In whatever way it might be done, the form will finally be that of the asana. It is essential because it paves our way to the ultimate. This posture must always be the same. The reason is that in this way, he gets himself associated with the great power, the very thing he takes up in the beginning for the attainment of his particular objective. So all this boils down to just one thing. When we sit in Sukhasana, we are bringing all our limbs to and our hands to a state of contraction, and that contraction is necessary because it has a tendency to take us, it has an upward tendency, and therefore we sit like that. This question will come, so I have put it up here. This is one preliminary. What are the other steps? This I took straight from the book so that we could discuss on it as to why we sit in Sukhasana and why it is considered most effective. Of course, some cannot sit, it's okay, but that is something that we can, if we can, it is good to sit in that asana because it brings about the contraction, and contraction is necessary for the upward tendency. What are the other steps?
Prayer.
No, we are just talking about meditation only here.
Ignore the thoughts.
Once we sit, find a place, we sit down. We sit down in such a way that all the limbs, everything is contracted, allowing for the upward tendency of the flow of the divine energy.
Upright position of the backbone.
Okay.
Not very stiff, but it is better if we sit in neck and vertebral column in the straight line.
So why I didn't put up that, now that slide is coming. Anyway, one second. Cleaning is another step that we take up in our practice. Of course, meditation, yes, we sit like that. Then we bring our attention to our heart. We do the point be cleaning, right? Yes. All this, we tell the prayer, we do the point be cleaning, and then we go in, set the goal and go into meditation. We know that it's a part of our practice. Other steps that we follow is cleaning and prayer. Does anyone want to tell the process of cleaning? Step by step by step. Because this is all practice related and you have a complete paper on practice related. What are all the steps that we do when we take up cleaning?
Can I, sister?
Yes, please. Anyone wants to share?
Yes. For cleaning, sister, or for prayer?
Cleaning first.
Okay.
Sister. Okay. If anybody wants to, I'll just.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so we sit comfortably in a relaxed posture, and we give a suggestion that that we are going to start cleaning, and with that sankalpa that we are going to become pure and simple. And then we feel that there is golden jello in the pelvic region. It's filled with golden jello.
Okay.
And then we feel that the golden fluid is occupying the entire skeleton structure, starting from the pelvic region to the tip of the head.
Okay.
And then we, in a relaxed mode, we start with the suggestion that the impurities and complexities are going out of our system in the form of vapor or smoke from the back of our system.
Okay.
And then as we get the grip, we accelerate and speed up. So we do this for approximately 20-25 minutes. Okay, as we do it, we start feeling the lightness as well as we start feeling the warmness. It can be done in two ways. For experienced abhyasis, we can also go at the point level and then go to each points and then do the cleaning and then imagine the entire system that it has cleaned. So once we are done with the cleaning, we start the next process of filling the divine current. So we go with the suggestion that there is divine current entering that space from the master's cosmic heart, and it is occupying that space. So we start feeling the divine current occupying us, and we also can give a suggestion that if there are any means the dead cells or anger cells of any of that nature is getting replaced with the divine cells. Okay, and at the end of the process, if we feel that if there are any heaviness in any of the in any place, then we can go with the same suggestion that the divine current is pushing it out.
Okay.
Once we are done with that process, we say that we are feeling simple and pure, and we can go with the extension that that every koshas are in harmony and in its original state. Similarly, the bodies as well as the sense organs, and then finally conclude with the chakras in the same way that it's in harmony and in its original state.
Okay.
Go with the final suggestion of that every brother and sister, and including myself, are having the right thinking, correct understanding, and honest approach to life, and then we conclude.
Okay, that's fine. But there is a specified thing for you, given for you, right? And simple heartfulness practices. As to this is practice related, so you will have to write it as it is given in the book.
Yeah.
This cleaning of chakras and all that, we do it. But if there is a new abhyasi and we are telling them about cleaning, we are not talking about cleaning the chakras and all those things. Only those steps that are given there in that book, you are supposed to write it in the same order. Two things that should be included is when you are telling, you should tell every abhyasi to do this cleaning with a lot of confidence, right?
Conviction.
And we should not dwell on any particular event when we are doing this cleaning. Everything, all the grossness is going away, right? We don't dwell on any particular event or incident. That thing also should be included. So for this, we would suggest that you read that steps as it is given in the book, because that has to be reproduced verbatim. Okay?
Agreed, sister.
Okay. And yes.
One question.
Yeah.
So I think the golden liquid method also for the experience and specific purpose, Taji said, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
We don't do it every time, or we don't tell any new abhyasi who comes to us to do the golden liquid thing. We can do it, but if you want to include it in your cleaning, there's no harm. But we just generally don't do it. So that whatever is given in that simple heartfulness practices, it is good to go through those steps and write it in the same way, talking about it from your exam point of view. Okay? And so is the prayer. So we'll move on. So it says, additional prerequisites for rapid progress. These are the core practices that we do: meditation, cleaning, prayer, constant. Then comes the additional prerequisites. We know that. What does Babuji say about constant remembrance? Or this is one quote of Babuji where he says, when divine thought will continuously remain alive in the heart and attention will remain drawn towards it all the while, this is what constant remembrance exactly means. That Chariji used to always tell this, no? Apparently somebody came to Babuji and he said, I practice constant remembrance sometimes. You got it? once in, I think when he went to the US or something, one of the newly inducted Abhyasi came and said, I practice constant remembrance sometimes. See the paradox there, right? So, constant remembrance means continuously being connected with the divine. When divine thought will continuously remain alive in the heart and attention will remain drawn towards it all the while, this is what constant remembrance exactly means. So it is not like, all the time telling the name of the master. Can we do it? No. But when you, in the morning meditation, after your meditation, you just make this sankalpa that everything that I do is going to be an offering unto him. Right? And everything that I do is going to be according to his guidance. Whatever I do, it is the master who is doing it. That is constant remembrance. We must remain in touch with the idea of God in all phases of our mental and physical activities. The real significance of the custom is that we must remain in touch with the idea of God in all phases of our mental and physical activities. We must feel ourselves connected with the Supreme Power every moment with an unbroken chain of thought during all our activities. It can be easily accomplished if we treat all our actions and work to be a part of the divine duty entrusted to us by the great master whom we are to serve as best as we can. We are all doing it in a way. Constant remembrance is also become like a core practice for us, right? Because slowly as the practice continues, this comes automatically to us, constant remembrance. But if you are asked what it is, then you can say this: remaining in touch with the idea of God or master or whatever in all phases of our mental and physical activities. That is all constant remembrances. And he says it can be easily accomplished if we treat all our actions and work to be a part of the divine duty. This is what is told in the Gita also, and this is what Babuji also is saying. There's nothing much there to discuss. Constant remembrance, devotion, these are all the other prerequisites. We spoke about surrender already. Okay, here he says, devotion is of different kinds. This is something I would want you to read if it is very, I hope it is legible and you're able to see it. Is it visible to all of you?
Yes, sister.
Yes, sister. Yes,
Yeah,
sister.
he
Can I read,
says-
sister?
Yeah, yes, sister. Go ahead.
Devotion. Constant remembrance acquires efficiency when the Abhyasi has been devoted to the object of meditation or constant remembrance. First is the suppressed smoldering, giving out thick smoke.
The first stage of devotion he talks about is about suppressed smoldering, giving out thick smoke. Okay.
The second has occasional sparks in it. And the last one gives the bright burning flame, capable of reducing everything to ashes in a moment's time.
Continue.
The first two states are subject to their exposure to the combustible matter in the air. When the solidity which hampers combustion is removed by the effect of inner heating, which hampers combustion is removed by the effect of inner heating, the final action starts with full devotion, may be spoken of as total self-surrender, from which the awareness of
Surrender has entirely been withdrawn by the grace of the Supreme Master himself.
Yes, yes. So the first is the suppress mouldering, giving out thick smoke. First stage of devotion. Second has occasional spark. The smoke has gone, there are sparks now. Last one gives a bright burning flame. The degrees vary, right? Initially, it is coming out like smoke. Then there are sparks accompanying it. And finally, it becomes an all-encompassing, all-consuming, burning flame capable of reducing everything to ashes in a moment's time. When the solidity which hampers combustion is removed, and the solidity removal happens in the very first meditation. We saw that, right? It starts there. And it goes on progressing. Removal of solidity becomes more and more. This solidity which hampers combustion is removed by the effect of inner heating. The final action starts with full force. The final stages of devotion come when we have surrendered without the awareness of having surrendered. And that, of course, that is the superfine level of devotion where we have totally surrendered, but we don't even know that we have surrendered. And this can happen only with the Master's grace. And hopefully we will all come to that superfine level of devotion, which is complete surrender without the awareness of having surrendered. The easiest and surest means to achieve the goal is to surrender yourself to the great master. We all talk about Sayujyata, but how do we achieve that Sayujyata is only through surrender. Of course, our practice should be there, but through surrender, this can happen easily. To effect the surrender of the heart is the easiest way. Only an act of will is required. Babuji makes it sound very simple. You can surrender your heart by surrendering your heart. The surrendering your heart is the easiest way. And what is required for surrendering your heart is only an act of will. But therein lies the whole problem. Like how many of us are willing to completely surrender our heart? In the Sthita Prajna course, they sent us a small thing which says Fakir's wealth. I will be sending it to Raghu brother. Maybe he can post it in your group, where he says that begging bowl itself, if it becomes the heart, how it will be. This is a very interesting piece to read and very introspective piece. I will be sending it to brother. He will be putting it in the group. And self-surrender is nothing but a state of complete resignation to the will of the master with total disregard of the self. Surrender is not an ordinary thing to be achieved. It begins after complete negation of all senses and faculties, for which we proceed by elementary rules of devotion. So we start with devotion. Devotion of different kind happens. Initially, there's a lot of smoke. Then comes out brighter sparks. Then comes the all-consuming flame, which is then comes surrender, which is the superfine level of devotion. And once surrender happens, we are not even aware of it. It is only by the grace of Master that complete surrender can happen without any stress or pressure. And when this happens, and when we are ready to surrender our heart, then we can achieve the goal of Sayujyata. And it all begins with negation of all senses. Easy to read, but yeah, it needs a lot of practice. So come almost to the end. Other prerequisites, we saw constant remembrance, we saw devotion, we saw surrender. This is just classification of disciples, not very thing. There is Manmat and Gurumat and all those things. But see, the submission or surrender begins with obedience. And essentially what is needed, another very important prerequisite that an Abhyasi has to have, we can consider this as a very important aspect in the role of an Abhyasi. Active participation in the process, all that is there. By diligently following the prescribed practices and developing their character, right from Lalaji, who talks about akhlaq, to Daji, who always talks about character development. If this happens, then we reach the zenith of purity and self-realization. So developing their character is one of the most important aspect of one important role that an Abhyasi has to do for himself. Because many a time it is said, your spiritual progress is master's concern, but developing your character is your concern. And Chariji went one step ahead by saying, if there is no character, there is no spirituality, right? So that developing our character, every day we have to put our nose to the grinding stone and see that our character goes on getting refined, more refined, super refined. This is also an important prerequisite for an Abhyas. So with that, we conclude today's session. Exactly at 9:30, we have finished. So now we can keep it open for questions, and I'll stop sharing. And Brother Raghu gave us some questions also last time, right? Homework questions?
Sister.
You raised your hand, Rima, sister.
Yeah. Sister, it's an interesting topic actually, the self-surrender. So I was just thinking it's okay, we do a prayer and we surrender it to Master, but there are certain situations when we have to take a decision and what is right and what's wrong, and both the sides looks to us. So how, where, and the surrender will play in this kind of a situation.
No, whatever decision you take, also you do it in his name. That also is a surrender.
Okay.
Right? Many a time we have to look into our day-to-day problems and we have to take a decision, like you said.
Yeah.
But if you can meditate for some time on the issue and see what opens up for you, do that in his name. Okay, submit it to him and take a decision. See, Master cannot look into each of our lives to make a decision, right? So that is what they say. Whenever you are faced with something like this, simply sit and meditate for some time. See what opens up for you. Okay? And when you sit in prayer and submit it to him, definitely the guidance will come. Then go ahead, take a step with an attitude of surrender. That's all.
Okay. Because there's always a conflict, sister, whether
Yes,
it's
yes.
coming from the heart or from the mind.
Correct. Correct.
So there's a conflict coming, whether I'm taking a right decision or not.
Yes,
That kind
this
of
is
a thing.
always there, but when we have to decide whether it is coming from the heart or the mind, something that comes spontaneously comes from the heart. If we go on thinking about it, then the logic starts working, and the logic is the aspect of the mind. Right? So what comes spontaneously when you sit in meditation, what comes spontaneously to you, that could be perhaps the best way to deal with the issue.
As per what Babuji used to tell, right, sister, means where he used to say that he had the complete surrender to Lalaji, and it was Lalaji who had taken over, and nothing remains to be done by Babuji.
Yes.
Even if somebody had to means do any spiritual work for Babuji, they used to say, means Babuji used to say, go to Lalaji and probably.
Yeah, Babuji had reached that level of, emergence that Lalaji used to take his decisions for him. That's what he used to say. Yeah, but for us, we are all work in progress, you see. So we have to depend on all these things.
I thought the question was from the surrender, so I thought it's
Correct.
appropriate to just add that line.
Yeah. So that's what they say. No, surrender is finally his grace. We saw that in the slide, right? So if you reach that level of super fine devotion, then surrender becomes his grace. You will surrender without knowing you have surrendered, because he has, bestowed you with that attitude of surrender. That's what we saw in our slide. Surrender will ultimately come with his grace, depending on our level of devotion. So anything else? Or are we done for the day?
I think, sister, you have already explained it quite well. Each and every slide you have gone in details.
Yeah. So I don't know if brother is here. Is brother Raghu here? Does he want to say something, brother?
I'm just listening, sister. No problem.
Yes,
Continue.
brother. We finished on time. We just left it open in case they have any other questions. Or I think this was
There
quite
is
simple
one
because it is the
question.
role of Vyasi, right? So nothing very technical here. Like last time we had Jiva and Brahma and things like that, and each book will give you a different meaning. This time it was just role of an Abhyasi, and since we are all practicing, it wasn't very difficult for us to really go with the flow. Vinay, brother, you have raised your hand.
Yeah. So there is one question which brother asked few sessions before. And means maybe from the last session where the homework was given, we got the answer. I could just get that line where it was mentioned, Raghu brother, where the thumb is the state where it doesn't fall. I think that clear line was mentioned at state of the perfection where there is no decline or there is no fall.
Yeah, correct. Brother clearly distinguished between tamasu and tam.
Yeah.
Right? Tamasu is that ignorance that we talk about, tamasoma jyotirgamaya. But this tam is the ultimate knowledge. Ultimate, where Babuji calls it as complete ignorance.
So it's there in Maxim 1. You probably caught that line there.
No, the philosophy, it's clearly the same lines were written in the.
It's there mentioned, I think, in from Maxim 1 also. It's very clearly mentioned, same line. The thing is that many of the things are mentioned in quite a few books.
Yeah.
So if it kind of reinforces our knowledge.
And sometimes when we sit to read, we pick out all those books where the subject comes and read it. This book is like that, in this book it's like this. That happens.
Quite a few things are there in Sahajmarg philosophy, which are there from reality at dawn.
Yes.
Quite a lot of things.
It's there.
So that's why we took this as the second book to cover. It's become easier for you to relate.
Yeah. And also the other question which you had asked about what happens when Sat is added to Tam. So even that, I think it's clearly mentioned that if Sat means, which is more the complete ignorance, where if it gets added, it says he will begin to have cognizance of his state of Tam, which at the state of Tam, he will be like a child, means innocent child.
Yeah.
But when Sat is added, he will be aware of that.
The total purity goes off. The awareness comes, and with the awareness comes the self and all those things.
True. The emergence of both these creates a new
state.
Yeah, state.
And
but
that is
in the same lines, if Tam, which is at the creation which you explained the other day, brother, where you had mentioned about the sequence, and in that also, I think when Tam is there, and if that still comes, is that the Sat which is creating the creation?
In a way, you can say it is Sat, but it's a superfine Sat. Not in the way that we talk about Sat as the guna, the Sattva guna, Rajo guna, and Tamo guna, no?
No.
So it's not in terms of the gunas, but it's something like a superfine Sat. And that actually enables the creation to actually proceed. So when there is a latent motion and there is that divine will of God, the divine will of God, in a way, you can say that it's like the superfine state of Sat. So when these two come together, at that junction, the crevices open up and then the latent motion comes out as the powers flowing out, and that enables the creation to proceed. So in a way, in fact, you can actually trace all these three gunas up to the center. There are three gunas, no? And normally we talk about the three gunas beyond the central region. After you come out the central region, then these three gunas starts manifesting much more clearly. But before that, the three gunas are there, but in a more potentialized form, so to say. So if you want to kind of decipher that in that potentialized form, we can actually trace it up to the Adi Maya. Okay, that's something. It's something that you can pick up after reading all the 6 volumes. If you read Babuji's all the 6 volumes, you will be able to trace it back there up to the Adi Maya, from where just outside the thumb is the state of Adi Maya, from where everything proceeds down. And you can trace all the 3 gunas up to there, Adi Maya. So that's for some other day. But anyway, in the context of the perfection that you mentioned, there are 2 ways of reaching perfection. One is when you actually use the ego to try to reach perfection. And there are many people in this world who try to be perfectionists. There are a lot of people like that. And when you try to be perfectionist by using the ego, it's highly tedious, highly draining of energy, and leads to a lot of conflicts with people. That's what happens when people try to be perfectionist with ego. So I'll just give one simple example. Recently, one Abhyasi had come and the motor was on for the water to fill up in the tank, and the water started overflowing. So this Abhyasi thought that, oh, I should go and do something about this water spilling out. So went to the place where the motor was on and then turned it off. That's what she thought. But she was not sure whether she's actually turned it off or on. Okay, and then we went, she told me, then I said, even I'm not sure sometimes about this switch. We need to just tell my wife, they will be able to manage it. But then by the time we went and told, my wife reported that it had already been turned off, but somebody came and turned on. Again, I turned it off. Okay. And when we went back for the meditation is not yet started. This is just before the start of the sitting. Then I just made one comment that we just need to be aware of the boundaries. Not in any bad way. I just told her that this is something that we need to keep in mind, because every house has its own kind of routine to follow. And when somebody comes from outside the house, they may not know about the routine. So sometimes there is a chance of error. That's it. And the meditation was over. Then after the meditation, this sister said that she was thinking about what I told her before the meditation, and then she was actually pretty emotional, the sister. So then we were explaining to her, why is she actually being emotional? What exactly is the reason why the emotions are coming out? Then she said she was actually almost like, what do you say, defending, saying that I never crossed the boundary. So that word boundary seemed to have kind of stuck a wrong note, so to say. It was just an innocuous comment saying that we just need to be aware of the boundaries, that's all. But that seemed to have evoked a wrong kind of a vibration. And she was kind of stuck with that particular thing. And then when we were explaining to her that the reason why she was feeling upset about that word and emotional feeling was because that she has this wanting to be in a state of perfection, not wanting to err at any time. So she'll go out of her way not to err. And she said, this is the first time I've actually did this, so I felt very bad. I said, it's okay to err. We are all there as humans to err only. It's fine. But we just need to learn from that. That's all. We don't need to kind of think too much about it. And that's why that margin of error is always given to us as human beings. Lalaji writes only perfect person, perfect being is God. Every other human being, every other incarnate being in any sphere can err. So we should learn to accept it and not try to go towards perfection in the context of ego. When you try to go towards perfection with the ego intact, it's highly difficult, highly tedious. It's always better to let go of. I said, why are you worried about something which is so innocuous? You just need to kind of just accept it and say, next time around, we'll not do this, we'll do some other thing. Manage in some other way. That's all, as simple as that. Rather than focusing on the mistake, why not actually focus on the learning from the mistake and move on? Most of the time, human beings actually suffer not because of the mistakes that they do, but because they actually refuse to learn the lessons from the mistake and move on. That is why they suffer. Not because of the mistakes. Everyone does mistakes. What is the big deal in that? People who suffer are people who don't learn to move on, learn the lessons and move on. That's all. Okay. So it's that's why I said Lalaji has said you actually live in the worldly life that you are leading, and here only you will learn. And these issues that you face on and off in day-to-day life is the penances we actually undergo. You don't need to. In fact, Lalaji has made it so much wonderful that we don't need to go to the forest to actually undergo penances. Everyday events that occur in our life itself is a penance that we can actually get better and make our internal structure better and better while handling it. So it's very, very interesting.
Brother, the extreme of that attitude, it leads to mental disorder, if I'm right,
Correct.
OCD or
Oh,
something.
there are many people like that. There are many people who tend to be perfectionist and they actually develop mental illness because of the tendency to be perfectionist. So there's something called as OCD as a disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. There's something called as a OCD personality disorder. So there are quite a few conditions where this perfectionist tendency plays a very big role. And the trouble is that the difference between perfectionist tendency in spiritual realm versus mentally ill realm is that in a mentally ill realm, they try to be perfectionist while holding on to the ego. In a spiritual realm, they try to go towards perfection while letting go of the ego or letting the ego recover. That is what happens. That's the difference. Okay. Anyway, interesting. We were just talking about some other point today after the meditation about the fifth point, Vishuddha Chakra. There are 4 or 5 points that you need to remember about the Vishuddha Chakra. So I'll just mention because anyway we had the discussion today in the morning after the meditation. Vishuddha Chakra is the point of devotion. Many of the spiritual books talk about the Vishuddha Chakra as the point of devotion. This is apart from what we read in our books. In our books, we read in the context of the Vishuddha Chakra being the point of clarity. Right? But apart from that, Vishuddha Chakra is also the point of devotion. It is also the point where the conscious mind and the subconscious mind meet. It's also the point where the waking world and the dream world meets. It's the point where the prana is withdrawn from the physical body. It's the seat of Udana prana. There are 5 Pancha pranas, no? Of that, one prana is Udana. Udana is the one that helps separating the life force from the physical body. And when the life force is withdrawn from the 5th chakra and goes to the 6th, then the life force is withdrawn from the physical body. Although it is still there at the Agna chakra. So Udana is like the place where the prana shakti first enters into the physical body. From the Agna chakra, it flows down to the 5th chakra, Vishuddha chakra, and then percolates down. So those are the 4 or 5 functions of the 5th point. And in the 5th point, this came in the context of some Abhyasi telling today that I saw so many things, I wanted to tell everything, but the moment you said that's all, I forgot everything. This is a typical experience of a 5th work occurring at the 5th point. When the work occurs at the 5th point, you see so many things, you experience so many things in quick succession. And you have not made note of it with awareness. But the moment that you say that's all and they open the eyes, everything is gone into thin air. It's like a dream-like state in a waking state. And that is when the work is occurring in the fifth point. And that is clearly mentioned about this in the spiritual anatomy. Okay.
So work literally also happens in the fifth chakra as well, right? In the system, though in some of the artfulness literature, we say that fifth chakra is not touched, and if it is the bridge between the heart and the mind, so means, and when there is a moment where somebody has gone to Brahman Mandal, we still see that work happening in the.
Correct. The work occurs, continues to occur in the fifth chakra. Okay. But anyway, when you train to be the preceptress, you will get to know how the work occurs in the fifth chakra. But it continues to occur either from the realm of the fourth point and the lower 4 points, or from the realm of the higher points, from where the work will percolate down to the fifth chakra. So one of the two. Okay. Anyway, good that you people have started saying for the answers in the book. That's one good thing to see. So if you actually try to look for answers, you will actually go to depth of many concepts that we are actually talking about. Okay. And yesterday we realized that some of the things have not been covered. I think it might have been overlooked. Yesterday I picked up a few things. We will try to cover it in the later part. I think in the chapter on realization, the reality, space and time was not covered. The origin of the space and time. We jumped directly to Jiva and Brahma. Parallelism was covered later. Avatars were covered. Space and time, I think somehow we could not cover it in full. Cosmology was covered. Identity was covered. So there are a few things I think we just need to kind of cover it a few more bit in a bit more deeper level that we'll actually look at when we do the next part of the session. Okay. Anyway, go to the Girish Babu, brother. Go ahead.
Developing character regarding that, any reference is there or any topic is there in our literature? Just I would like to know.
Just repeat it.
Developing character regarding that, I would like to know how to do it and any literature or.
Best thing to do as far as developing character is implement the 10 maxims. See, character is about the external aspect of our internal state. When you take sittings, when you do the sadhana, the internal changes occur. But the internal changes do not automatically translate into external behavior and character. It's only when we have that ability to translate that internal work and allow that to manifest externally that we see that our character is changing. So one of the biggest tools that we have got in terms of building our character is to utilize the 10 maxims. That's why the 10 maxims is there. So 10 maxims brings about the modification at the external level based upon the modification that occurs at the internal level. It works in the other way around also. When we do the 10 maxims and practice the 10 maxims, it actually accelerates the journey internally also. It has two functions. It allows the internal thing to manifest externally. That's one function. And the second function is the external changes that we implement also accelerates the internal change. Okay. So from Babaji's time, this is one of the tools that they have used in terms of manifestation, the 10 maxims to change our external character. And Lalaji used to say that if somebody has some deficiency in certain character issues or morality, however high they might have evolved in spirituality, he doesn't take that into account. Because that does not have that stability. When that internal and external are same, there's a firm, stable background to it. When the internal and external are different, that stability factor is missing. So internally there might be a lot of evolution, but externally it is not supported. So that base is not there. So that risk of fall is always there. That was the point that brother was mentioning about the risk of fall. The risk of fall is when the external does not keep in tune with the internal. There's a high risk of fall. When both go hand in hand, the risk of fall is very less. Okay.
One more thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. Hello. I would like to. Brighter world is What exactly? Yes, I want brighter world. We are getting the mail from
Anything beyond the
Babuji. Is
world,
it coming?
anything beyond the world of liberation is brighter world.
Oh,
Anything beyond liberation. And you know, in our Gayatri Mantra, there are quite a few words, no, that we talk about. So, what are all the words that we talk about there?
I don't.
Anybody can say.
Om Bhurbhuva Swaha
Dhimahi.
Tatsaviturenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi
Bhargodevasya Dhimahi.
Dhiyo Yo Nah
That is
Prachodayat.
Gayatri Mantra. But what are the 7 words that you talk about there?
Boom, Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, that all those Pitruloka and all the stuff which comes in.
When you utter the pranayama mantra in a elaborate way, then you actually talk about all the 7 lokas.
Yeah.
So we are in the 8th loka. Of the 14 lokas, we are in the 8th loka. So then above that, there are 6 lokas. Ours is Bhu loka. Om Bhuvaha. Om Bhuhu. This is Bhu loka. Bhuhu. Then Bhuvaha. Then Swaha. Om Mahaha. Om Janaha. Om Tapaha. Om Satyam. These are the 7 lokas. So we are at the lowest rung of this, the 7 lokas, which is the 8th loka from bottom. When we become grosser, we go down the lokas. In terms of these lokas that we got, no, of the 14 lokas, we are at the 7th realm, 8th realm. When we become finer, we go to the higher realms in terms of consciousness. When we become grosser, we go down to the lower lokas. That is all that happens. So that's how we actually relate to the lokas in terms of the subtlety of the consciousness. Okay. Now, Suhaloka is Devaloka. Bhuvarloka is somewhere between Bhuloka and Suvahaloka. Suvahaloka means Devaloka. Suvaha means God. When we talk about God, the demigods. So that is the Suvahaloka. So anything beyond the Suvahaloka and beyond is the brighter world.
Oh.
The Bhuvarloka is a place where the Siddhas exist. They are evolved than human beings, but they are not as evolved as the gods in terms of subtlety of the consciousness. Okay, that is
that
what
the
happens.
same as Pitruloka, brother?
No, Pitruloka is different. Pitruloka is different. Pitruloka has nothing to do with spirituality. Pitruloka is a place where anybody who doesn't do any one spiritual sadhana, they go there for temporarily resting, for shedding some of the samskaras, and then come back for the rest of the samskaras here. That is Pitruloka. This Bhuvarloka is a place for the Siddhas. So somebody who's done some spiritual sadhana and they have evolved to a certain extent and developed some siddhis, but they are not reached a stage where they are actually liberated. So it's like yakshas, kinnaras, they are the people who, the Gandharvas, they are the people who stay there. A bit more evolved than human beings, but less than the gods, somewhere in between. Okay, it's if you learn all these things, it will be interesting for you to learn in the context of the Hindu philosophy and mythology. That's another, but
So
that's
where
not.
is
It's not essential for your exams, though. It's good for your learning in terms of subtlety of the consciousness.
And
But you can.
by Suha, you said the sorry, just to ask on that. So Suha, you said gods, which is deity, right? It is deity. You
The demigods. The demigods. Like the Indra, Varuna, Agni,
Indra, Varuna,
Vayu,
Vayu,
Yama, all of them, they are the realm of Subha. And from there onwards, the brighter world starts.
Okay.
And in the context of what we said earlier on, the Tama and the Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, the Tama that is felt in that Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, the Tama there is very heavy. Compared to that, light is lighter. Okay, but if you look at light in the context of Tam, the light is very heavy. Okay, so from darkness to light and then to darkness and then beyond. So, but if you see in the it's like in the gradient of lightness. So the tamasu is the dark heaviest. Then the sat, where there is light, is comparatively lighter. But when you go to the state of tam, the state of sat is heavier actually. Okay. So anyway, Madhuri sister, go ahead.
So where is the Trishanguloka, brother?
Sorry?
Trishanguloka, the Vishwamitra. Trishanguloka.
Which loka?
Trishankuloka, the one which
Oh,
Vishwamitra
Trishanku
creates.
Loka was a human creation. It's nothing to do with divine creation. Trishanku Loka was a human creation. Vishwamitra created it. And what happens is Trishanku was a king. He says his argument is when I do any good deeds on earth, my body is the doer. So my body also should partake of the results of the good deeds. That was his argument. So he goes to Vashishta saying that I want my body also to be sent to the Swarga. Vashishta says it's impossible. That's against the rule of nature. Then he goes and approaches Vashishta's son. Vashishta's son says, no problem, sister. Vashishta's son says, that's not possible. And then he scolds, you have actually tried to, what do you say, differentiate between father and son. So he actually scolds him left, right, center and sends him off. Then he knew that Vishwamitra is against anything that Vashishta says, Vishwamitra will be against it, opposite. So somebody gives an idea, why don't you go and approach Vishwamitra? So he goes and approaches Vishwamitra, and Vishwamitra is still not yet become Brahmarishi at that time. See, there are quite a levels of rishis. So just normal rishi, then Raja rishi, and then Brahma rishi. That's the levels in rishis. So Vishwamitra is just a Raja rishi at that time. He's not yet become Brahma rishi. So Vishwamitra, he approaches him, and Vishwamitra says, okay, I will send you there to Swarga with your body intact with my spiritual powers that I have gained with my practice. So he uses his spiritual powers to send him to the Swargaloka. But as he enters the Swargaloka, he stopped at the gate and then said that you don't have entry with this particular body. That body is impurity that he cannot take into the Swarga. So they push him back to earth. So he starts falling down. Then Vishwamitra uses his spiritual power to stop him midair, somewhere between the heaven and earth, and then creates one Swarga for him. And that becomes a Trishanku Swarga. So Trishanku Swarga is a human creation. In other words, we create Trishanku Swarga by our own imagination. Okay. And then the story goes that Trishanku is alone in that.
Reverse, I think.
He complains, what am I supposed to do here? I'm all alone here. Nobody else is there. I can't enjoy this Swarga. So,
And he's bottom up, I think. It's not the.
yeah, after that, Vishwamitra creates other people to make him enjoy, but he never is satisfied with that Trishanku Swarga. In other words, remember the Trishanku Swarga is not backed by reality. You really enjoy something only when it is backed by reality. Otherwise, there is no question of real enjoyment in that. Okay. Anyway, Madhuri sister, go ahead.
Yeah. So experientially, we understand that what that cleaning does, vapor, like everything is going as in the form of smoke and everything. But theoretically, what happens, what happens to the thoughts, how it is going for a newcomer or even for me also. Generally, what happens, because I can do that removing any time of the day, like if it is bothering, I can remove in the smoke. But actually why it's going, why some thoughts are not going, what is that smoke actually, the thing why we have brought that smoke.
Anyways, I think you are now going to the theoretical background of how does the cleaning occur actually. It's not something that is actually described in the book.
Yeah.
But you can deduce some points. Okay, for example, if you use the word smoke or vapor, what you are actually essentially using is the heat element in your system, the fire element. See, without the fire element, there cannot be any smoke nor vapor. For both of that, you require that fire element to be there. When only the fire element is being used for cleaning, you actually feel the smoke. When the fire element actually is used with the water element, then you actually feel the vapor, because it's a combination of two. Okay. Essentially, when you use the suggestions that you give in the cleaning, you are activating the fire element. Utilizing the fire element, you are then actively pushing out. If, for example, very simple example, take a very physical example. Suppose we have to broom this room, clean the room. So you take a broomstick and then you start actually doing that motion, the hand motion. Now, when you actually do the hand motion, you are actually increasing the heat in the system. While you clean externally also, whether you clean internally also, the heat is absolutely necessary for cleaning. Without the heat, you cannot clean yourself. Okay. The only thing is when you actually clean the room with a broomstick, you are actually utilizing the heat in an external way. When you utilize the same heat in an internal way, you are actually cleaning your internal system. That's all it is. Now, many people confuse between cleaning and meditation. People complain that I start with cleaning, but I drift into meditation. Now, actually, if you look at how cleaning is done, it is virtually impossible for you to go into meditation. It's not possible. If you correctly grasp cleaning, you will not actually go into meditation. Now, meditation is a very passive activity. You don't do anything. You just sit there, give suggestion and sit. That's it. That there is source of divine light in my heart, it's attracting me within. That's it. And then you sit and wait for things to unfold. But cleaning throughout the session is an active process. You go on making first you make the sankalpa, then you give instruction, then you give the next instruction, then you give the further instruction. So there is a series of instructions that you have to repeat. So how can you drift into meditation when you are supposed to repeat these instructions every few minutes? Where is the question of drifting into meditation? It is virtually not possible. Now, I don't know how many people have actually observed this. When you actually start cleaning, you make the sankalpa, you give the suggestion, and then you sit. What's the first thing that you notice?
First thing we notice, it's a little warmness.
Sorry?
Little warmness.
Warmness, okay. Anything else? Even before the warmness.
The first thing you notice is, brother, I think a lot of thoughts come into your mind.
Okay. After that?
Mind becomes very active than passive.
Okay. Anything else?
Vacuity is created, sir. Vacuum is created.
That is later part.
Vacuum or the lightness comes later on. In fact, the vacuum is the last thing to be created. It doesn't come first. So I'm talking about the first thing.
We get the grip of, means I feel that there is some grip, and then the process starts.
We remain alert.
Heaviness. Remain alert. All those things are fine. But there's something else that happens. It's active process, you remember. Now I want you to observe the difference in the breath when you do the cleaning versus the breath in the meditation. Nobody observes the difference. What happens to the breath? That's
In
what
the cleaning, we hold the breath. And then that is the catch. And then we start pushing.
That's a very common mistake that many people do. They hold the breath. Good that you mentioned it. Lot of people do make this mistake. In fact, when you actually do the cleaning correctly, rather than holding the breath consciously, what you notice initially is that there is variation in the breath. See, in the meditation, the breath becomes very shallow over a period of time, right? Because you're not doing anything. Look at it from a scientific perspective. In meditation, since it's a passive process, the requirement for the oxygen is very less. The prana shakti is very less. You're not doing anything. You're just sitting quiet. You're not even going behind the thought. You're not imagining. You're not using force. Nothing. So why do you require any oxygen, much oxygen, or even the prana shakti? You don't require much. So what happens is the breath gradually settles down. It becomes very, very shallow to the extent that sometimes you feel you're not breathing only.
Yeah.
Okay. That is because it's a very passive process. Now, if the cleaning is an active process, what is supposed to happen to the breath?
But when you start, I think, yeah, maybe a mistake, as you rightly said.
Many people hold on to the breath. We have also done the same mistake. So that's fine, nothing wrong with it. But it's something that many people actually hold on to the breath as if they're gathering their energy to push that samskaras out. That's why you hold. But actually, if you just do it naturally, what happens is initially you see variations in the breath. The breath becomes more deeper and faster. This is what happens. Then, as and when the cleaning process proceeds with the suggestion that you have given, the breath seems to kind of gradually settle down. But then, if the breath is settling down, you're becoming more passive now. That's why you reinforce the cleaning on and off with other suggestions. Now you say you accelerate the cleaning with confidence and courage and determination. So that adds force to the cleaning. Then you say that you add willpower to the cleaning. Now that adds more force to the cleaning. In other words, that helps you to use the force also. It also helps you to keep your alertness and awareness to the cleaning process. Because you should not withdraw your attention from the back throughout the cleaning. Your attention should be fixed on the back throughout the cleaning session till you start feeling that sense of lightness or vacuum in the heart. First, the lightness comes and then the vacuum comes. Most of the people, when you say that what happens in the cleaning, most of the people first say that we develop lightness, but lightness comes almost after 10-15 minutes. It doesn't come immediately. It takes time. Then after that, you use the divine current to simultaneously send off all the, to clear off all the rest of the remaining samskaras. Then you allow the divine current to spread throughout the system. And then in the end, you say that you are developing that purity and simplicity. Now, when you relate that purity and simplicity just to that fact that you, wherever you are becoming purer and simpler, that's the only benefit that you get. But suppose you relate that purity and simplicity, which point is the purity and simplicity is the highest, the epitome of simplicity and
12th.
purity?
0.2.
12.
Highest is
12th
7
point.
and 12. Yeah.
So second, 7th, and 12th. So the 12th point is the peak of purity and simplicity. So when you actually relate that purity and simplicity that you are developing after cleaning to that 12th point, what happens is that the entire set of samskaras now becomes weakened. Normally, we don't relate to any of the points. We just give the suggestion and leave it at that. Right? That's what we do normally. But then if you have the correct knowledge of where exactly this particular process can take you, this is exactly what Daji has tried to explain in many of the maxims that we are going to have in the Heartful Living session in Crest. How to relate the implementation of the maxim with the conditions that we are going to develop, and which point actually are we tending towards when we actually utilize the maxim in the right way. That's what we develop. That's what we actually look at when we look at Heartful Living. Okay. So in the cleaning, if you're becoming more purer and simpler, you're actually going towards the 12th point. That is like your aim. And then it's only the central region that is there after that. So in that way, if that association is made towards that 12th point, the condition towards the 12th point, the mind is now aligning in that direction already, just in the normal cleaning also. That actually accelerates your journey. But many of these points are not mentioned here. Other point which is not mentioned is when you do the meditation, we actually put the EEG and study the different waves. You remember? But then you have anybody come across what happens to the brain waves when we are doing the cleaning process? Our cleaning process is something that we actually do it in our system.
Gamma. It's going to become gamma.
Nobody has studied it or not published it. I'm just mentioning it. So it's for you to work out. Definitely it cannot be delta or theta. So it should be, because you are alert and aware, so it should be either alpha, beta, or gamma. It depends on the different stages in which you are doing, and the differentiation between the alpha, beta, and the gamma rays, not the theta and delta. That is ruled out.
Is
These
it
are the two possibilities.
before dinner, after dinner experience of gamma or?
Nobody has studied. I'm just saying that we study the EEG in the context of meditation. But I have not come across any papers. I don't know if somebody else has published, but I have not come across papers which talk about the variations in the brain waves in the context of the cleaning process. What is supposed to happen? Okay, so there are a lot of things that has not been studied. There are a lot of scope for still further scientific processes to be done in many of the practices that we do. And I'm not even sure about. You remember that one instance when Daji talks about how the entire atmosphere in the room changed when Chariji was doing the prayer.
Yes.
So I don't know if somebody has actually done the prayer, the EEG studies on the prayer also. What is supposed to happen to the brain waves during the prayer so that the atmosphere can change or the internal condition can change. So these are all things that are still not yet been explored. Apparently, there is one conference coming up in October, medical conference. We just saw that advertisement, no? Some pamphlets had come about medical studies. Third conference on international health and well-being in association with AIMS. So they're doing the third edition, third year now. Anyway, so we have, if you know that cleaning is an active process, you cannot drift into meditation. Only when you don't have that clear differentiation between the two, you might actually go down. And even other mistake that people do is, suppose when you have an argument with somebody, and then you actually start focusing on the incident, you want to clean that incident by focusing on the incident. That's not the right way. You have to do general cleaning for 5 minutes.
Maybe
That
just in, sorry, after you.
in that general cleaning, this also issue will be kind of minimized. The impact of the issue that you have undergone will be minimized. We say this in the context of evening cleaning, that if you hold on to some things thinking that let this be cleaned, except that everything else will be cleaned. That thing will not be cleaned because you are holding on to it. Okay, so just remember that. Go ahead now.
Just my experience, brother. I mean, some days we are too tired because we reach almost like 10, 11 o'clock night, and we would have started our day 3:30, 4 o'clock. So, and if we would have had a dinner and then do the cleaning, we don't know when we have slipped into the meditation. It's because of the state of our physical body is what I have experienced.
If you do the cleaning after dinner, what happens is the moment you eat food, night, the blood supply is diverted to the intestines and stomach. So the blood supply to the brain will be very minimal. Under the conditions where the blood supply to the brain is very minimal, it's very difficult to be awake and alert. So always try to do the cleaning before having the dinner, even if it's late. Do the cleaning for 10-15 minutes and then have the dinner. Okay. If you try to do the other way, you will not be able to maintain alertness and awareness. And you will probably drift into sleep. Because the moment you eat more food, the natural tendency is to make you go to sleep, especially in the night. Okay. And we have to consider all these factors when we are actually doing our practice. Because sometimes you might not have the time to do it earlier on. But if you want to do the dinner at 10 o'clock, then do it for 10-15 minutes, the cleaning, and then have the dinner. But if that is the case, I would always advise it. Don't eat anything after 7 o'clock. So if that is the case, let go of the dinner. It's okay for one day. Because one of the, maximum samskaras we form when we are doing an activity or when we are not doing an activity.
We're not doing an activity because we're idle.
Our mind is in leisure.
Leisure.
It goes in all directions and forms samskaras. Okay. Likewise, maximum damage to the health we do when we eat late night dinner and go to sleep immediately. That's the worst thing that we can do for our health. So if people have this habit of having late night dinners and then going to sleep immediately, you are actually causing great damage to your health in sleep. There should always be a gap at least 2 to 3 hours before you actually go to sleep. And always after the sleep, after the night dinner, if at all you are eating dinners, make sure that you walk at least for 10-15 minutes. Don't ever go to eat and then go to sleep. Normally, the bad habits of all Indians is you eat the night dinner, watch television for some period of time, chit chat with the family, then go to sleep. This is the usual routine in most of the families. And that's the worst thing that you can do in your health. Like we damage our mind and heart by creating samskaras in the leisure hours, we damage our health by eating late in the night and then going to sleep immediately. So don't do that. Okay. In fact, if anybody above 40-45, give up the night meal regularly. That's the best thing that you can do for your health. All lifestyle illnesses will come down just by giving up one night meal. I think that was a said thing which was spoken about in the Khana, no? After the Bandara sitting, they spoke about the intermittent fasting. But there are many other things that we can do to keep our health fine. But this is one thing that you need to keep in mind. Okay. Anant, you have waited long with patience.
I almost forgot my question. No, I remember. This is about this where Babaji talks about this meditating on the heart, right? And then he gives some reasons. And he talks about it's a pumping station of blood and how it helps, right? Then there are a couple of things he talks about which are difficult for me to follow. One is he says the heart is the only point at which the connecting link between animate and the inanimate is most clearly felt. Okay, so that is one I'm not able to understand. The second is the heart is the field of action of the mind. So I'm really not sure what that means. Because if we're talking the pumping station as the physical heart there, and then suddenly we are talking about connecting link between animate. So these are the two things, yeah. These two sentences about link, animate, inanimate, and the field of action of the mind.
You remember that one sentence from Heartfulness Way? That you can, with your love, you can make a person an object of love, or the object can be converted into a person. You remember that in the context of
Object can be converted
into a person. An object can be converted into a person. In the context of
God, I
the
think.
prayer.
Formation.
You people remember that?
I don't remember it.
I'll just read you that sentence.
When the
Just hold on.
passion, it talks about
The
passion.
context of the prayer. Object of prayer.
He talks about it should be subtler, right? Not grosser. I remember that.
So he's talking about the object of prayer. Anyway, I'll post it in the thing. You have an object with the way
So
that
it
you
is
relate to the
basically
object.
love can turn a mere object into a
Exactly. In the
worshipable
context
goddess.
of the love. Exactly.
That's the choice.
Exactly. So the love, if it's correctly practiced, can actually turn an object into what do you say, an inanimate object into an animate thing. And if it's viewed in the wrong attitude, it can actually convert an animate object into an inanimate thing. It's almost like he's talking about in the context of worshipping an idol. There was one devotee who comes to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. I don't know if you people have read about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's life history. One devotee comes to him with a small Ram Lala. Ram Lala is the idol of Ram as a baby boy, young boy. And that person who loves that particular idol so much that actually for him, that is no longer an idol. It is actually a living boy. And to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also, it is very similar. The same idol for him is like a living boy. And then during that person's stay in Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's place, you can actually see that Ramlala playing around with everybody else in the ashram. So I'm just giving you a very, if you want to read more about that particular story, you can go to the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and read about that particular episode about Ramlala. Okay. The heart, since the heart is the organ of the feeling, it has this capability to connect the link between the animate and the inanimate. In other words, if the heart is used appropriately, an inanimate object can be made alive, animate. And if the heart is used inappropriately, the animate object can actually be made inanimate. It's the connecting link. It can change one form to another form by the way that we utilize the heart and the feelings or the love that is emanating from the heart. That is what he means. That's the
And this
second
is the
point.
physical heart, right? Sorry. Because the first, when we talk about heart as the pumping station, we have the physical heart.
Correct.
So here
Now he's
also
going more deeper. Now he's going more deeper. He's now talking about the heart as an organ of feeling. Organ of feeling. Now, even from a physical perspective, now the science is also coming to this understanding that there are three brains. There are two hearts and there are three brains. In fact, there are three hearts, in fact. I'm just talking about from a scientific perspective. If you look at it from the perspective of heart perspective, three hearts, the calf muscles in the legs that you've got, they are considered to be two hearts. Both the calf muscles, left leg and the right leg, There are calf muscles, and they are supposed to be the two hearts. And this heart that you normally think about in the chest, that is the main heart. So you have three hearts. Whatever this heart does in the chest, the same function the calf muscles do. When the blood flows down to the legs, remember it has to come against gravity. See, now we are all sitting. Now the blood has to come against gravity. How can it come against gravity? It comes against gravity because the calf muscles pumps, just like the heart pumps here in the chest, the calf muscles pump. Now, there are many women who develop varicose veins. The veins become bigger and they kind of store some blood. You can clearly see those vessels in them. What happens there is when the calf muscle pumps, there are valves in the veins. So when it pumps once, the blood moves like a column. One valve opens up because of the pump, it moves in the column. Then the blood which was in this column, now it's in this part of the column. Then again the valve gets closed. Then again it pumps, the next column of blood moves upper, and then this column moves further up. That's how the blood comes back to the heart against gravity. When we are standing, when we are sitting, when we are lying down anyway, it is coming naturally. But in standing and sitting posture, it's the calf muscle which acts as a second heart. Okay. Now, we also talk about the spiritual heart. You remember? Okay. So
On
there are
the
multiple
side,
functions
right
or
hand side.
multiple ways in which we relate to the heart. Now, coming back to your point, in the context of the heart being the junction where the animate and the inanimate meet, Babaji is using the word heart in the context of it being the organ of feeling. That's the context in which he is using it. Okay. Now, coming to the third part. In meditation, what happens is, see, this is how our system is when we start meditation. This is the heart, and heart is under the overall influence of the mind. The mind covers the heart in all respect. We don't listen to the heart at all. When we start meditation, heart is rarely in our life. It doesn't play any big role in our life at all. The heart is covered by this hand like this. What then happens is, as we meditate, the influence of the mind gradually comes down and the heart starts expanding. So over a period of time, the heart now covers the mind in this way. So when this happens, you now lead a heart-led life. When this is the case, you lead a mind-led life. Now, in what the point that you are talking about in terms of the heart-mind complex, you can call this as a heart-mind complex. The thinking in the mind influences the condition of the heart. The condition of the heart influences the thinking in the mind. Very simple. For example, suppose we have prejudice in the mind against somebody. That person comes in front of us. The mind immediately opens up that file of prejudice. The heart says, don't open up that file, just deal with this person like anybody else. But the mind now overpowers the heart and says, no, this person did this to me last time around. I cannot deal with this person in a neutral state. In other words, the moment the mind overpowers the heart with the prejudice, the heart actually contracts. You can see that the heart contracts. You feel very uncomfortable. The heart starts beating. In fact, the first thing that you see is when you see this person that you've had a tip off with in the past, the moment they start coming towards you, your heart will start beating faster. Every one of us would have experienced it. That is because the mind's prejudice is now overpowering the feeling in the heart. Heart is naturally neutral. However, the mind can influence what you feel in the level of the heart. So your anxiety rises when you're actually dealing with this particular person. Now look at it. Suppose there was no prejudice. Suppose the prejudice is now cleaned off. And the mind is not as much influencing that. It's not like this. It's like this. The mind is not as much influencing the heart like in the past. The heart can still interact with the person in a more neutral state. In other words, the thoughts at the level of the mind influences how we feel at the level of the heart. Suppose you've had a very good sitting and the second point is worked on, you feel very peaceful. And this fellow comes in front of you. What will happen now? You don't want to let go of the peace in the heart. The mind says, this fellow did this to you last time around. Why don't you actually have a tip off with him? Why don't you fight with him? The heart says, don't fight. You are very peaceful. Just be quiet. So now you are able to listen to the heart. And then the mind is now overpowered. That is what happens. So it's always a constant, what do you say, tug of war between what the mind is saying versus what the heart wants to do. Initially, it is the mind which is overpowering the heart from all sides. As and when we make progress, we start listening to the heart more and more. And what makes us listen to the heart? The conditions that we develop. And there again, the 10 maxims come. 10 maxims help you to listen to the heart more and more. When you listen to the heart more and more, the mind gradually withdraws in its influence of the heart. That is when we say that you have now crossed the Pind Pradesh, the lower heart region. When the mind does not influence the heart as much as it was doing in the past, then you can say that you have actually now crossed the Pind Pradesh. That is what is crossing the Dvandvas of the Pind Pradesh is. But remember, from the 6th point onwards up to the 12th point, you still have the mind region. The mind is still active there. It's not like the mind is gone. Mind is still there. But it's just that the heart being under the influence of the mind has come down to a certain extent. That is what happens. Okay. There's another thing. Many patients with depression have a high chance of heart attack. More than 50% of the patients with depression go into a heart attack. Higher chances, higher risk of heart attack. Now, depression is a condition of the mind. Why should the heart go into heart attack? It is because the condition of the mind affects the functioning of the heart. So I'm just giving you two physical examples. That's why heart attack is considered as a psychosomatic illness. Depression is considered as a psychosomatic illness. Psychosomatic means that there is a physical component to the mental illness. So if you study psychosomatic illnesses, you will be able to understand these things. And when I said there are three brains, the heart itself has a brain, the head has a brain, the gut has a brain. There are three brains that the science accept now. Many illnesses of the brain that is there in the head actually starts in the gut brain. If you do not look after the gut very well, and that's where the fasting helps. Whatever I told you earlier on. It helps you to look after the gut brain very well. It is called as gut brain axis. The gut and the brain axis. So the gut has its own brain. The heart has its own brain. You remember one of the whispers that we read, intelligence of the heart. Not the intelligence of the mind. In one of the messages, with brighter words, we read about intelligence of the heart. What is the intelligence of the heart? Where you start making decisions based on feelings. That is the intelligence of the heart. Not based on what you think, what you have read or something like that. It's based on the feelings. When you start making decisions based on the feelings, that is when you can say that your intelligence of the heart has now started manifesting. Okay. So this gut brain axis is a very, very big thing. What we want you to do as Abhyasis and preceptor candidates is that learn to observe your heart when the heart beats suddenly at a faster rate. Just observe those situations. And that actually will give you an indication that heart is getting under influence of something. That's why it's beating faster. That's the easiest way of looking at the heart. Then you have to work out what is it that actually is the reason why the heart is beating faster. And most of the time it is because it has come under the influence of some of the subconscious things that the mind is storing. That makes the heart beat faster. Very common. Okay. So become more sensitive about these factors. It will be useful for your journey. For example, when an Abhyasi comes to you, first you look at your own condition. What is your heart saying? Is the heart quiet? Is the heart started beating faster? Is the heart actually talking about various different things in the sense that it is giving rise to a feeling of fear or feeling of sadness? What is the heart feeling the moment you actually come across somebody? That gives you a very early glimpse into the condition of the person. So the heart, the more you work on utilizing the heart for your life, the more you actually, it becomes useful in all aspects. And then it actually saves time many times. That is what you call as the hunch. I don't feel that this is going to work out. In the instant, it gives you the result. It's not going to work out. Don't try it. So if you listen to the heart, you probably will save a lot of time in life. Okay, but there are many other aspects to it. We'll cover it some other day. I've given you a few aspects which might be useful as far as from scientific perspective, also from a spiritual perspective, also.
This is only one thing right here. So when we talk about these three bodies, right? The physical body, subtle body, and causal body, right? And the heart, I'm trying to figure out where is the heart here, right? When we talk about heart as the organ that's pumping, we are talking about the physical body.
Correct.
When we talk about heart as the organ of feeling, are we starting to talk about the heart region, and are we starting to talk about the subtle body there?
It's probably, you can call it as the subtle body, the feeling.
Okay, that's
Correct.
The manas part, right, brother?
Okay, thank you, brother.
Go ahead, Girish.
Nothing, brother. Lighter note. So Tuesdays and Fridays, we should not have our dinners.
That's why we're keeping you here for till 10:30, so that you can go back to sleep after this.
Right,
Good,
brother.
good one. Vikas, go ahead.
That's all.
No, Vikas.
Others in family are complaining for dinners like.
Vinay, sorry, Vinay, go ahead.
So there is, once you were mentioning about the heart in the calf muscles as well, right, brother? Means, is that the reason where they also say related to the parents, we have the limbs carrying the left and right, means at the time of the birth? There's some vague idea I have. I'm not very sure. Just wanted to check if it is requires more detailed explanation. We can probably have another day. But is it the reference what you were telling?
Just
If it
repeat that.
is
What is the reference?
okay, so you said about the
Calf
heart
muscles,
in
you just
the
said
calf
heart.
muscles as well.
Exactly.
Okay, and if heart is also the place for feeling, okay, means there is also a reference that the limbs carry the samskaras from the parents, something
Why
of
the
that
limbs?
nature,
Only
left and
Vinay,
right, mother and father, something like that.
the limbs can carry our own samskaras. Why only from
Correct.
parents?
No, something which is which comes through Mooladhar is something vague I have heard. I'm not sure.
This point about calf muscle being the heart is not an organ of feeling. No.
Okay, it's just a
Calf muscle
pumping
is
system.
being a heart is said in the context of that pumping action of the calf muscle. So not in the context of feeling. The feeling part in the entire system is only the heart. There is no other organ. Heart is the best organ for feeling. There is no other organ which can feel like heart. Okay. Secondly, as long as a person is very active physically, simple walking can actually prolong the life of a person. If the calf muscle has to be active, it needs to get energy. If the calf muscle has to get energy, it can only come from the Mooladhara chakra, the lowest chakra. So when you regularly walk, you are keeping your Mooladhara chakra and the calf muscles active. As long as the Mooladhara chakra is active, the life force will not withdraw from it. Most of the time, when people go into inactivity, there is no reason for the Mooladhara chakra to work because they are inactive most of the time. So then the pranic force starts getting withdrawn to the higher chakras. So one of the simplest way that we can actually extend our life, longevity, is regularly walk, regularly be physically active. That's one of the easiest way. And how it works is that it keeps the life force tagged onto the Mooladhara chakra. As long as the life force is tagged onto the Moola chakra, Muladhara Chakra, there is stability in life. Generally, you see this compared to a person who's very active, you compare it with a person who's always lying down. The person who's lying down always and not being very active, they tend to lose their life faster compared to a person who's very active. So, another tip for life is make sure that you are physically active every day, at least for 1.5 hours. Somehow you have to find time and be active physically. Just make sure that you are walking at least 1.5 hours for whatever reason. To that extent, you are actually helping yourself in terms of your longevity. It slows down your aging. Okay. Karthik Swami.
Yes, good evening, brother, and good evening, everybody. So, Prabhu, sir, brother, my question was, so longevity or physical exercise is related to Muladhara Chakra. So, as long as you, yeah, basic common sense also is if you exercise, if you work out, if you walk and all that, you will be healthy and you will have a longer life. Not necessarily that it has to be productive, okay, but you will have a longer life. So, any little bit more explanation on this?
In what context? In what ways?
Like, actually, yes, Mooladhara Chakra, whatever we read or whatever we little bit knowledge we have, 2%, that is with survival, right, brother? So,
See, one activity, one simple, a lot of people go to gym, they spend hours together in the gym, all these things. But if
correct,
you just look at our history, our ancestors, there are many people, many families where our ancestors have actually lived for almost 80, 90, 95, 100 years.
correct.
In many of those contexts, why they could actually do that was because they were very physically active.
Yes, yes,
Not
yes,
because they were going to gym. There was no gym at the time at all.
correct, correct.
But they were very physically active. And this was something that they actually did. And they could actually balance between many of the different needs of the body. The different needs of the different bodies, the physical body, the mental and the subtle and the causal body. For example, they were not stressing their subtle body too much by overthinking. And this is one of the bane of the younger generations. For everything, they think a lot. For
Yes,
everything, they want to try to solve it themselves. They don't seek the help of God. And one of the things that they were doing, the ancestors, our ancestors, was that they would try to do something. If it doesn't work out, oh, God doesn't want it. They would just at least let go of it at some point of time. But we don't want to let go at all. And that message having is to let go. That's all. The more you let go, the quite longer that you will live.
yeah, more simpler, correct. No,
Exactly.
totally, brother. I can totally accept because looking at my grandfather's character and reading some of the points where they really, my grandfather at 80 plus, he said, I have completed all my responsibilities and duties and I am happy to leave now.
Exactly. So they were actually very happy to let go of even life. At the
Yeah,
end of it, they were happy to let go of the life also. Forget about other needs.
yes,
But even now, there are many people who cannot let go of anything.
correct.
The
Absolutely.
moment, see, whether in the name of what tradition, whether in the name of culture, whether in the name of anything else, if
Yeah,
we learn the art of letting go, that is the best thing that we can do. We don't need to do cleaning all the time to let go. That's remember that.
yes,
Our
yes,
own attitude itself is enough to let go.
correct. So, Braghu brother, since you are told about longevity, good health, activating Mooladhara Chakra by working out, walking, etc. So, again, my question will come back, any other tips to reach the highest in the shortest?
Before any sitting, be on an
Uh,
empty.
empty stomach. Yeah, absolutely, brother. Because like if you eat and go, then the transmission goes to the food and water. But yeah, definitely when you are more empty, not this thing, maybe 3 or 4 hours if you had breakfast and then you go for a sitting, or this thing you have had lunch at 1 and go at 5 at sitting, then it is nice. No, you mean totally empty stomach.
For example, you have breakfast in the morning. If you
Okay.
have sitting in the evening, say around 6, 6:37,
Uh,
don't have the lunch. Have some liquids, no problem. Don't have,
oh,
go and take the sitting, and after that you can have the dinner on that particular day. You still are eating only 2 times. On
yes.
that particular day, by doing what you did now, you are going to get more benefit out of the sitting.
Yes.
Remember, when we are in an empty stomach, the samskaras inside become weaker,
Okay.
more easier to clean. So when you are going to go for sitting tomorrow morning, don't eat the night before.
Either.
Then take the sitting and then have the breakfast. In that way, you have made your samskaras weaker. In fact, do you ever wonder the food that we eat, where does this go? What happens to this food? What does that food energize? Have you ever wondered?
Physical body, subtle
I
body.
hello. Can
Think
I?
about it.
Yes,
Whatever
yes.
food you eat, what happens to this food? What does this food energize actually? See, remember, the soul does not require your food.
Yes, it requires spiritual energy.
The soul itself is the source of energy. Why does it require your food that you are eating? It doesn't require anything.
Correct.
That means the food that you are eating is actually feeding something else. And what the food feeds is our body, our mind,
Physical.
and our sanskaras.
Yes. Correct,
These are the
brother.
three things that it feeds.
One thing I just wanted to share personally, I'm sorry, I will not take much time, just 1 minute, I'll finish up. Always I have realized that if you eat very light and if you are doing very intense sadhana, it automatically takes you to a different stage. Especially if you don't eat dinner and you do your morning meditation, point B cleaning, prayer, morning meditation, your whole day is set to become a very successful, blissful, blessed, very calm and smooth day. Like like that, I've noticed that much. The
That's
more
good.
light.
In fact, one tip for that is if you can actually prepone the time of meditation, that will
Yes.
do even good, even better. So say
5:30.
somebody is meditating between 5:30 to 6, suppose.
Yeah.
Suppose you prepone that by 1 hour or 1.5 hours. You meditate between 4 and 4:30. And then
Yes.
it's okay. If you want to go back to sleep after that, that's fine. But
Yes.
that earlier the meditation, the better the results. That's
Yeah.
another thing that we have seen. And that is also tied in biologically.
Yes.
Because all hormones in the body gets released after 4 o'clock
4 o'clock.
biologically.
Yes. Yes.
So if you meditate before the release of the hormones, the internal state is very crystal clear. You will have such wonderful benefits of meditation earlier, before 4 o'clock, that it's difficult to explain in words. If you do it, you will see the difference.
No, no, brother. I have tried this experience. So what I really wanted to say is, like, yeah, you do that. It takes to a next plane of this spiritual this thing. Dimension changes, thinking changes, mentality. Even your neuro-linguistic programming, reprogramming happens. If you do that, I tried some experiment and I really found it very this thing. But maybe because of this thing. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you.
Thank you. Kishore, but
Yeah,
you
brother. So
want to
just
get some exemption from fasting? Is that why you have raised your hand?
okay. So just to add to the calf muscles heart thing you are saying, right? So this varicose veins which you were telling. So is it like that this is a physical related question, not a spiritual. So is it like they have become weaker to push the blood to the higher to the heart, and that's why it has swollen?
No, what happens in varicose veins is the valve, which is supposed to hold the blood, it weakens. And with age, what happens? The blood vessels expand. The wall thickens and is not as elastic like before. Since it's not as elastic like before, the valve tends to develop a leak. So when the valve develops the leak, more blood flow is more blood gets stored in the lower part of the body. Now, I want to ask one question, last question before you go to sleep. You don't need to answer this, just keep it in mind. We all talk about the life going out of the body at once. Are there times when different parts of the body go towards death and still the life in the body is maintained? So, this is the question for you to ponder about. So that will then bring you to the understanding of the Pancha Pranas, the five pranas. So, that will set the stage for you to understand about the five pranas, how it works in the body, which is part of the Pranamaya Kosha. Okay, we have not covered that in any of the thing. It has not come. I don't think it's there described in detail the Pancha Pranas in our system much. but it's part of the pranamaya kosha. And I'm talking about a condition where a part of the body dies, but the rest of the body is alive. Part of the body is alive. And then what do we do in those contexts? How do we deal with it? Not during the hiccups. During the hiccups, which part of the body dies?
What do you mean by how to deal? Because we know person whose kidneys disorder, like, kidneys are not working anymore.
But kidneys are not dead though. It is still alive. I'm talking about a
They call
condition where
brain
some
dead.
parts of the body die actually.
Is it gangrene kind of stuff you're telling me, brother?
It's a gangrene kind of stuff, exactly. Where
This is
some
as well.
different parts of the body actually dies. And many times the treatment for gangrene is that particular part which has died is kind of amputated to save the rest of the life in the body.
Even this lacqua, similar, where it doesn't function.
No, lacqua is different. That is different. Here it's in whatever word you use, gangrene is a very appropriate word. In the context of gangrene, the treatment is amputation. Now, why does gangrene develop? What is the role of our meditation in that? That is what I want you to grasp. That's why I asked this particular question. Why does gangrene develop? So I want you to think about it read about Pancha Pranas, the 5 pranas. And then ponder about why does a person develop gangrene. Then how do you actually prevent that gangrene from developing? Does meditation help in gangrene not developing? What is the role of meditation? Okay, so that will give you the context in which the things work in the system, in the body. Other point we were just discussing before this book reading session was how to recognize consciousness. We all talk about expansion of consciousness and all, no? So we were just kind of worked out a mnemonic that you can remember. CMC VLS. So these are the 6 ways in which you can relate to the consciousness. So colors, movement, conditions, vibrations, light, and sound. These are the 6 ways in which actually you can relate to the consciousness and the work that is occurring in the consciousness. So just repeat CMC VLS. C is colors, M is movement, the next C is conditions. Then V is vibrations, L is light, S is sound. Now, when you take a sitting, essentially you give a feedback after the sitting, you are actually giving a feedback based on these 6 parameters most of the time. Apart from this also, you will say certain things, I saw some things, I saw some scenery, I saw some observations, some faces, all those things we'll say. But they're all part of the observations. But if you look at consciousness per se, these are the 6 things that you actually describe, your experience of meditation.
Sir, once again, can you please tell?
So somebody can repeat. I think some people might have made note. Anybody can repeat.
Colors, movement,
CMC,
condition, vibration, light, and sound.
This part that consciousness is light and sound is explained in the Truth Eternal by Lalaji. This part as consciousness in terms of vibrations is explained in the spiritual anatomy. And again, the chakras in terms of colors and the movement and conditions again is explained in Towards Infinity also and spiritual anatomy also. So we just kind of brought everything together on one platform so that it's easier for you to remember when you give a feedback of the sittings. Okay. I just explained one other experiment today, which we do in ENT, in a ENT clinic. Suppose you have a tuning fork and then you just bang it against the table and then you listen to the sound. Okay, you listen, you hear the sound for some period of time. After that, you don't hear now. Now you take the tuning fork near your ear and again you hear the sound.
Yes.
Right? And then again the hearing stops after some time. Then in that state, put the base of the tuning fork behind the ear on the bone here. When you put the tuning fork at the base of the ear, back of the ear on the bone, the base of the tuning fork is kept there, you feel the vibrations.
Yes, yes, correct.
Okay, so the three levels. First, you hear the sound when it's further apart. Then you hear the sound when you actually take it near the ear. And then thirdly, when both the sounds have gone, you put it at the base of the skull, at the back of the ear, the bone there, and you still feel the vibrations. This is something that we do. There's something called as sensory neural hearing loss and then conductive hearing loss. So we differentiate between these two based on this particular experiment. We were just discussing about this in the context of anahata and ajapa. You remember those two things that you had heard, anahata and ajapa? This experiment is very relevant for that particular thing. How does it develop and what happens? So just keep this question in mind. We will talk about this anahata and ajapa in the context of shabda/vibration. We'll discuss about it some other time. So just keep that in mind. Okay. I think you people are tired, no? There people are still raising the hand.
Brother, one last question.
I realized for the last 2 hours, 45 minutes, I've not moved from my chair. So you talk about the calf muscles. I was just rubbing my calf muscles. Give it some
One of the things that you need to do is when you are sitting for the talk, you need to keep changing position. And you need to keep moving your legs on and off.
Yeah, I should do that.
Okay. And all that you need to do is just the food which is like this, just pull it like this. That's all. Put it like this. That is enough for the calf muscles to pump.
The foot.
The foot, exactly. The foot. It will be like this, and then straighten it like this, 90 degree, and then put it back again. Again, straighten it.
Okay.
That's all. And that will press the calf muscle. That's all you need to do.
It's useful. Need it at work also.
Exactly. You can do it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's very useful for controlling the blood pressure. Okay.
Raghu brother, sorry, the question was, since you said color, vibration, movement, condition, light, and sound, my question is very specific. You know, there is like a orange or a golden color. What does it represent, and what does purple color represent?
Good question. There are a lot of people who actually feel this during the meditation, and it's not very clearly mentioned in the books. Correct?
Absolutely correct. So then, one second. I hope I'm not interrupting you, because what happens then? You go to Google. Of course, Google is not God, but then you read up. You read up purple. They say like you are this, you are that. So many things. See, you are this and that. That doesn't make any difference. Actually, what you are. Do you have a balanced mind, benevolent feelings, and is your character of sound? You know, of sound condition. That is what really matters as a human being when we start evolving, especially in Sahajmar. So that is the thing I wanted to, because I read a lot of literature on this orange, and it was like orange, golden light and purple light. So I was not under ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಏನು ಹಿಂಗ ಅನಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಏನು ಅನಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಹಾ ಇದು ನೋಡಿ ಇದು ಹಂಗೇನು ಅನಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ರಿ ಅದಕ್ಕ.
Anyway, considering that we are almost coming up to 11 o'clock, my suggestion is we will park this question for the next session. Okay. See, we have finished the role of Abhyasi. We only have the role of the master and the stages of realization. So my hunch is that we'll get 2 extra sessions where we can actually cover some of these questions and clarify some of these topics before we move forward. So we will finish that and then we go to the next book. Okay. So we can park that question. If anybody else has a question, please keep it with you or send it to Ajitesh or somebody who's collecting all the questions so that we can discuss it at some point of time. Okay, but I'm happy to see that all of you are people are so awake and alert even at 11 o'clock after 3 hours. That's not a small thing. People nowadays don't even watch movie for 3 hours. Right. Apurva, go ahead.
Yeah, one question is no, there are 2 questions. One is ಇವಾಗ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ there is a heart and calf muscle also. So do we also have any spiritual aspect there? ಅಂದ್ರೆ during sitting, do we feel any vibrations there too?
No.
No. Okay.
The calf muscle as a heart is only in the context of the pumping action. That's all. It's nothing to do with spiritual purpose.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, that's not mentioned anywhere, so not to worry.
Okay. Another question is, ಈಗ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಫಿಫ್ತ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಫೀಲ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಒನ್ಸ್ ದ ಪ್ರಿಸೆಪ್ಟರ್ ಸೇಸ್ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ will not be able to recollect. So how do we exactly recollect what happened? So do we have to meditate again to recollect whatever happened?
If you are alert and aware during the session of the meditation, the mind takes note of what is happening during the course of the meditation. And then when we ask you what did you feel during the course of the meditation, you will be able to elaborate. But the characteristic feature of the work in the fifth point is that even though you actually make note of all the things, the moment you open your eyes, it goes. It's something like this. You are dreaming a lot, and then in the dream you are dreaming vividly. The moment you get up in the morning, you have lost everything. Even if you try to recall, it will not come. Very similar. Even if you try to recall what happened in the meditation, it will not come. Even if you put effort, it will not come. That's a characteristic feature of dream-like state that is experienced during meditation when the work is occurring at the fifth point, in a waking state. Okay. Of course, you can go to sleep during meditation and dream. That's also possible. This is in a waking state.
Waking state. Yeah. Thank you.
Srikanth, last word from you.
Okay. In fact, one of my friends said that he is implementing OMAD, 1 meal a day. And he said that he is able to take quick decisions. And, I don't know, he said cancer cells will die. I understand that it's getting late. So I just wanted to say, you said 3 hours, you're not getting tired. I felt that love all whom he loves is at work. That's all, brother. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good night.
Not all cancer cells die though. Remember, there are 2 types of cancers. Glucose sensitive cancers, glucose insensitive cancers. There are 2 types, major types. Those cancer cells which are glucose sensitive, if you fast, the cancer cells die because they are not getting the glucose.
Okay.
It does not have an impact on the glucose insensitive cancers. There, the fasting is not going to make a difference. So there are 2 varieties of cancers. Quite a lot of the physical conditions that we get, like BP, sugar, heart problem, dementia, Parkinson's, they're all related to the excessive food that we are taking and the wrong lifestyle that we are having. And one of the things that we are actually trying to do is trying to see whether by changing the lifestyle of the Abhyasis, can we actually increase their lifespan by 5 to 10 years? Because that gives them time to evolve also. That gives the time for them to work for the mission also, to expand the mission. It works both ways for everyone. So if we can do that, that will be one of the best things that we can do as far as improving the overall well-being of all the Abhyasis and the preceptors. Okay. So more on this point, sir, in the next few sessions. Thank you for
Thank you very much.
Patience and time.
Thank you, brother.
Namaste.
Thank you, brother.
Good night.
Thank you, brother.
Namaste, brother. Good night.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Healthy.
Thank